Education. Today is February 17th, 2026. And we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South 300 East in Sandy, Utah. Okay, so we are going to change the order of study tonight, and the legislative update will be last. Charlie and Susan are still up at the Capitol. They had late committee meetings today. So we are going to start with item B, which is Strategic Plans Focus Group Report by Quality Learning and Mindy Robinson, Director of Middle Schools, to us.
Good evening, board. It's nice to see you, and thanks for letting me present in study session. I love this a little bit more intimate and being able to talk through. I've had the privilege recently to be over high quality learning and educator. It's really exciting to me to see all the incredible things that we are doing in our district. In high quality learning, I've listed up here our committee members for this year that attend. And then I also just reminded us of the 4 impact statements and just a couple of words that stick out to me every time I read this. As Utah's Portrait or graduate, which we have canyonized to Portrait or Canyon Scholar. But I love the words mastery, autonomy, and purpose. I think of what our kids do and our teachers do, and it's very powerful. I also love in that second bullet that we talk about high quality, competency-based, personalized, and evidence-based. To me, the most exciting thing, I know it was a long time ago, but 16 years ago when I joined this district from another district, I didn't know what evidence-based was. And it has been so exciting to me to see how my teaching changed when I started this district because of how much work we've done on evidence-based practices. And then finally, I think one of the greatest strengths of our district is that all educators have this access to personalized professional learning. So I'll just go through an update. We're doing a lot. This is kind of what we're doing every day in our schools, but just want to kind of highlight a few of the areas that we have been really on. Portrait of a Canyon Scholar, to me, is really exciting. When the state of Utah put together a portrait of a graduate, I was in the schools at that time, and we really embraced this at the school I was at. And the reason we did is we really felt like these core competencies allowed students to really celebrate so many things that we are good at. And they weren't always getting acknowledged for that. And I look now with an innovation center and all of this focus on durable skills and how exciting that we were very proactive in putting this together. And now we need to do the next steps to make sure it's being implemented in our schools, and we're aligning that K through 12. So just a quick reminder, the 5 ones are innovator, critical thinking, resilient learning, impactful citizen, and collaborator. And I think more now than ever in our history, what an important time for us to all as adults and kids to really focus on those core competencies. So a few of the things, and again, this is just a highlight of some of the things that we're in the process of or hoping to do. In the high schools, we've been looking at from the feedback, thank you, Ms. Dolly, and to other people who attended one of the student advisories, that the kids, our high school advisory kids really talked about how they loved chords, that some of the other things weren't as important to them, but anyone that's been to graduation can see the chords. And so we wanted to really look at how we could take those 5 core competencies and look at different ways. And Jordan High School had some really creative ways that we're working on implementing a point system. So we're looking at developing that. We're also, thank you to Dr. McGill and his work, that we're looking at a curriculum possibility for high school, since we really don't have that yet, which is very aligned to the possibility of having more focus there. And then just really this idea of durable skills. And as Rhea and the Innovation Center know that this is the key thing. I have a brother who worked for a company. It's like, Mindy, if you could just teach kids one thing, tell them to show up to work, problem solve, think at work, and talk to one another. I'm like, oh, that sounds easy. Not easy. And I think that that's a really important focus. In the middle schools, we really are excited that we are looking with the transition over to cumulative, instead of just having the word citizenship, that our schools are going to actually be choosing 2 of the core competencies to give kids feedback on. And we think that will be an exciting way for both the teachers as well as the students to have that. We still have the Thrive Timed lessons, ISD, in coordination with student wellness, has spent hours putting those together. Again, focusing on durable skills, and the one highlight, just a reminder that we're moving college and career course to the 8th grade, so we really can put this into action as kids are preparing for high school. And then in elementary, I think our elementary teachers are fantastic at doing this all the time. This is their daily working with the kids on helping them through all of these. Bless all those elementary teachers that do that the whole day. And also looking at the learning skills on the report card to see if we can't have a better coordination between those. The next major focus that we have been talking about this year and for the last 20+ years is professional learning communities. And to me, as an educator, this probably is what actually fundamentally changed my teaching. I started in a district in PLCs. This is, for those of you familiar with DeForest, this is when the books first came out, like in the early, I'm not going to tell you how early because that ages me a lot, but they came out quite a while ago. And we have really embraced this as a district and also recognize that we also want to continue to improve this. Just a few things here. I think the one thing that we've all been really proud of as a district is making sure that teachers actually have the time in the day to do the PLCs. Teachers work so hard. So the more that we can incorporate that time in there, focusing on student learning, focusing on instructional practices. I also love that this is an opportunity for our teachers to be an example of Portrait of a Canyon Scholar and the collaboration. It hit me as I was thinking through these core competencies that we also want to be the best example of that. Just a little quote, but I think to me the keywords, these are the best, least expensive, most professionally rewarding way to improve schools. And I love the word professional because as educators, that hasn't always been the focus, and that's really what the purpose of our professional learning communities are. For quite a few years now, we've put some focus on the PLCs, and I'm just going to kind of talk through. This is a slide that actually was presented by ISD to our building leadership team. So over 400 educators saw this slide, and I really appreciated Amber's focus on this. That quality instruction, as we are looking at high quality learning, is the most important variable in student learning. And really that last quote that the professional learning communities as a system seek to create the structures and the cultures. Those of you who've been around for a few know that really you started education as this independent contractor. And to me, when I realized how much I had to gain, no matter what year of my teaching career, from one another, it was so critical for us to do that. So what we've been really working on is, first of all, we've now developed a PLC committee. School performance and ISD are working collaboratively. The first thing that we've been doing is really looking for what's actually happening. Thank you to Jackie Ricks up at Brighton High School. She created some self-assessment forms that we've done in the high school, and we've developed that. Now what we're doing is we're going into both K through 12, the PLCs, to really look at what's going in. They're non-evaluative. This is just to get a baseline. And then the things that we're really looking at is to ensure the next steps. There's a difference of just meeting together versus actually collaborating for student learning. And that will require us to look at assessments. That will require us to think deeply. For a lot of our teachers who are singletons or they're only teacher in the building, the district has also created in the secondary schools some early out opportunities where they all come together. And I just can say, as at least a middle school principal, my teachers were so excited when the theater teacher's like, yes, today I get to meet with 5 other theater teachers. And so I think it's really important that we realize that this is a process. Many of us were able to attend a solution tree conference. And one thing I really loved about the PLC is they reminded us it's a process. It's not a moment, but as a school, we're a PLC because all kids were responsible for it. And so a lot of work's going into this. We know that's going to be ongoing, but we also know that the PLCs really give us the biggest bang for the buck to improve instruction and student learning. One thing I just wanted to be aware, we haven't talked as much about high quality learning, but last year when we dove a little bit into AVID and some other programs, one thing that's always important to us is that we're providing rigorous experiences for our kids. Our goal is, especially as the high quality learning committee, to make sure that we are focused on rigor. What does that look like? And in every content, because we have seen rigor. Think of the electives, like I want to be in a PE class that they're pushing those kids. I will never forget a teacher my son had that said he's used his asthma as an excuse his whole life to not do it. By the end of the time, he's like, Mom, she really pushed me. I can run now, I can do this, because a teacher believed in him and gave him the skills to do that. So I think it's so important when we think of rigor academically in the electives that we're really doing that. And these are just a couple of ideas of where we're really looking for the rigor, and we'll always continue to do that. Another great strength, and this is ongoing too, is just the professional learning opportunities that we have for all educators. That first picture is from Playworks, which I was an elementary principal for a little bit. I loved Playworks, and I love that ISD has someone who works with those technicians to give them the best training, because they're so vital in our elementary schools. And then I look at the professional learning our educators have. I listed a couple. We're introducing 7th and 8th grade honors in a more robust way this next year. We've had training, lots of training. And the thing that's been really cool is not just training, but time for the teachers then to collaborate and create the lessons themselves, but providing that time. And so I love that the elementary did the first day of safety care and de-escalation. Like, we also know that teaching is about behaviors and academics. And then as administrators, this is a passion of mine. I've been able to do a lot of this, but really helping our leaders have the professional learning they need to, because we're all educators looking to grow. And then just in conclusion, I had the opportunity for fifth grade orientation. If you ever want to be entertained, go to a middle school the day that all the fifth graders come. I happen to be at Draper Park. I mean, I'm telling you, like, these music teachers are rock stars there. Like, they cheer for them. That, and I will say the SRO and the music got about the same level of cheering there, but to watch, it was pretty impressive. I'm like, good job. But I think as we watch these kids and we think about high quality, every experience that our students have, it is the focus on that whole child. And I really like that we use that in our tenets there. But I also think this idea of innovation, learning, growth. I mean, to me, to see eighth graders performing at a level, there were some sixth and seventh graders, it was mainly eighth graders, but to see them perform at this level and to see these fifth graders just level of excitement, like, I can do this. I think that's really what our jobs are about. So that's just kind of an update. I know I'm a fast talker. I wasn't gonna get close to 15 minutes, Amber. We all knew once. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything that's from the committee. Happy to talk through any of the conversations or anything that you want to go over.
Okay, thank you so much. Mrs. Oakes?
Thank you, Minnie. That was a really good overview of a lot of things. And I did reach out to Minnie today earlier, so she knows this is coming. But talk to me about PLCs and vertical alignment and collaboration, because as a board member, that was one of the biggest reasons why I voted for us to have PLCs across the district, is the importance of making sure that we're aligning things vertically from elementary to middle to high school. And then also, and I'm curious if there's measurements for that and Jackie's rubric, and are we allowing our teachers and organizing that between the different schools for us to be able to accomplish that? And the other thing is, I've had some teachers approach me and say same subject twice from high school to high school particularly. I haven't heard this as much from middle school, but they would be interested in collaborating and figuring out some consistency on the same subject. I mean, obviously they have what they're supposed to teach from the core, from the state, but even just like assessments, like how are we doing assessments? Writing is one area that I think is really important to address. And if that's being taught consistently from each high school to high school, do you know what I'm saying? So, and how are we going to address that in our PLCs?
Yeah, those are good questions. And I think too, it's a process. I think when we were talking about vertical articulation, I apologize, it was in my notes, but I got talking and I didn't refer to my notes. I think with the vertical articulation, a couple things that we started with is one, first of all, trying to get in the school to do a vertical articulation, because people know even in the elementary, when I was an elementary administrator, I remember one day that we just broke up the standards and we just literally did what you said. We said, what are we teaching and writing from K to 5? And that was really powerful, because I think sometimes not only the transition times, but in the schools themselves. I've seen a lot of our schools doing that. And I think we could better support that. The other thing I've really liked that we've been doing is with ISD's collaboration, we do have one in April that's a vertical articulation day. And it's not enough, but at least it's a beginning, because what we are seeing, I'm on access and opportunity, we really are seeing 5th to 6th grade and 8th to 9th grade. Those are the areas we need to keep working on, because we want to ensure, like you said, we better make sure that the rigor in 6th grade is more than 5th grade and 9th grade is 8th grade, and without that vertical articulation. So that in terms of measurement, I think that one's, PLCs are hard to measure in terms of really the ultimate measurement of student learning and success. And I also think it is teacher enjoyment of the job. I do think those two things weigh together. So I think, you know, for example, when we look at cohorts of students in the data, it's really important to see, are those kids growing? Now that we did the MAP test in the middle school, if they're not growing each year, then we really need to be looking at our level of rigor. That's fine, rigor there. But I think you're hitting on something, Amanda, that's super important. How do we keep monitoring this? We're looking at informal methods, more formalized methods, even if it's teacher survey of, do you feel like your PLC is collaborative and you're doing this? And then I think too, at the TSSP, we noticed in there, like making sure the rigor's in there, but those days they do a lot of the schools do a collaborative day. They do teams and vertical articulation, but I think that's an area that we need to continue to do, like you said, because if not, the rigor's not getting higher. And if I don't know what 5th grade's doing or 8th grade's doing, that makes it really challenging. So it's a great question.
Then like just this, and I apologize that I didn't bring this up before in our committee meeting. It's just, we never have enough time for everything, right? It's such a big subject, but I mean, even just if we were to take team leads, like for instance, if you take math, science, English or whatever, and the team leads from the various high schools were to be able to come together and share best practices, right? And even like how they're assessing things, how they're handling like the difficulties that come with like, you know, grading writing or some of those. I feel like because our district is all on this common schedule where we have Friday afternoons off, if we don't capitalize that as an opportunity, it's a real shame. And because there are things that each of the schools like shine at, why not pass that on to others and help them learn from each other?
And we'll keep working on that, Dr. Robbins.
I was just gonna say that with RISE being added to the high school, I mean, I think that's another lever that will really help us alignment and practice, so. That's good.
And I do think that team leads, for those of you who aren't familiar with ISD, they have established team leads and more familiar with the middle schools, but I really like that they're collaborating. And I think, Amanda, you hit on something important. Continue to think what they're collaborating on, what's the best use of those team leads times, because they're really valuable and they're really respected in the schools as well at the district level. So I do think where we already have that structure, how do we make that process more robust?
I just add too, I mean, it's great that our principals are talking about common grading scales and looking at learning through the same lens. I mean, that's a huge step that has been that minute, right? So
6th grade through 12th grade will be on the same grading scale.
Awesome.
First time next year. And
Awesome.
Dr. Sherwood and myself have been working that. The middle school's made a few more agreements. The high school's a little bit more complicated, but we're really excited to, like you said, Dr. Robbins, to really think through how do we support kids? We're a system. We don't want you to go to this high school or this high school and it's a completely different process. They should be able to, if they move, be able to have some similarities. So we're excited about that.
I think it lays the groundwork for all of the priorities that you're talking about. So,
Or even if they're in the same high school and they have different teachers. I mean, like as a parent,
right.
trying to keep track of that. Now, I'm fourth high school child in, like I still don't know consistently from class to class what we're dealing with. So
I think
just that
that's,
alone. Yeah,
and even with that grading scale, I know it sounds like a small step, but really.
that's big.
Yeah, I mean, we've made it through high school. We're now in college and now I'm like, hey, it's on you guys. Like that's up to the kids. But I remember in high school sometime I'm like, wait, which class is this? Is this a 70F, 55F? Like, where are we in this range? And I think it's also fair to kids, the more predictability we create.
Yes.
I really think that helps them. I mean, it's a lot to manage the number of classes these kids are taking. So I think anything we can do can really help them.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna have the legislative update right now since Charlie is here. And Charlie Evans, Director of External Relations, will lead us in this discussion. So then we'll go to the Innovation Center.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Susan is still at the Capitol. We had several bills in committee this afternoon. She's there working on them. I just texted to you guys the update for today. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail rather than take your questions, but just in a general sense of the way the legislative session is going, I think everybody will recall in the last 3 or 4 years, they've started really fast with education bills that they crammed down on in the first week or so. They didn't do that this year, obviously, and they've been going very slow. And there's a huge backlog of bills, especially in the House, and even beginning to be that way in the Senate too. And so we're going to have a really busy couple of weeks here. By the way of updates on what happened today, the sponsor of the school safety bills ran 2 of them on the House floor, 1 passed and 1 failed, which was not something I saw coming. I talked to the sponsor after and he's planning on trying to bring it back, but he's 11 votes short. I don't know where he gets it without a pretty substantial change in the bill. He said he doesn't plan to change it, so I don't really know what's going to happen there, but I don't see how it passes without a significant change to it. He asked me to come by his office in the morning and talk to him, which I plan to do. I have some ideas that might help it, but we'll see. So anyway, what questions can I answer for you guys?
We have questions. I just want to say thank you for these updates. They are really helpful. I know that adds to your burden. Like to get the daily update it's really helpful for us to like stay on top of them. So
You bet. We're happy to do it. I just create a note every morning and share it with the team. And as somebody on the team does something, they go to the note and add it to the note. So it's really not been a problem, and it's been helps us stay organized too. So you're welcome.
Mrs. Dolly?
Thank you for all your work that you're doing up there. We had a question earlier when talking about Senator McKay's bill on the 5% limit on property tax. Do you think there's any chance that, you know, if we're converting debt to capital and there's actually not an overall increase in tax, but it shows as an increase, do you think you would have any willing to put an exception in that case when there's not an actual increase overall tax wise, it's just a conversion?
So that bill was substituted today. And when I was watching when he substituted it, and as he sat down, I asked him, planning on running, and he said, "Don't worry, there's another substitute coming." So I don't know why I put the one in, but I do think that that is coming out of the third sub because it's too restrictive. And the point I made to them is what that will do is it will make people increase taxes more often.
Yeah, so yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think they figured that out.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you.
You can continue to work on it. That would be great. Anyone else have any comments?
I just have a question. So the safety bill, the one that was like shoved aside versus the one
Agree.
that's held. Okay, so what were the distinctions between those two?
The one, to me, this was the one that failed was the most egregious. I shouldn't call it egregious. I mean, everybody is trying to do the right thing, but it was the one that forced more unfunded mandates on us in terms of paying for SFOs. It would have given local jurisdictions the authority to buy or hire SFOs and then bill us for them. And so that's obviously not a good idea, at least from our perspective. And that's what killed it, I think. And that's what's got to come out. But he doesn't want to take that out. And, you know, they're realizing the guardians were a bad idea to begin with, and they're trying in a flat budget year to come up with some other mechanism on that. But, you know, it's a flat budget year for us too.
And then what was the one that is continuing?
It's 42 and
Cybersecurity.
yeah, cybersecurity.
Okay, so, all right.
Okay, so there's several bills, Charlie, about Utah High School Activities Association. So do you, I mean, I personally, I've been on that board, so I'm really worried about those. Like, do you think those are gonna pass? Like, what are your thoughts?
I don't think anything that the High School Activities Association wants to, I don't think anything's gonna pass that they don't want to pass.
Really?
What do you mean?
You know, they're, you know, if they've demonstrated anything in the years I've been at the legislature, it's the ability to take care of themselves. I don't know why we're wasting a lot of time on it. It is a waste of time. They know how to protect themselves as well as anybody up there. I've never seen anybody force anything down on them. I've seen the Speaker of the House spend all session trying to do it and fail to do it. Not going to happen this year either.
Because I am worried about those, because one of them gets rid of all transfer rules, one of them puts it in USB.
Yeah, that's so weird. Some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, there's bad stuff there, so. Hey, anyone else? Oh, okay, great.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
So much.
We have also appreciated when you guys ask questions on that thread, so everybody can see the questions and it gives us an indication what you're interested in. So don't hesitate to ask any questions, especially once we get going here, get final revenue numbers here in the next couple of days. I hope that they would not be as bad. I don't think they're going to be as bad, but I do think rather than having a revenue shortfall, it'll probably be flat. And so the EAC has built in that cushion where they made all of the sub appropriations committees submit a budget with 5% cuts. And so there's some stuff, there's some room there. But one of the things that I think we need some guidance on is in that list of stuff that was proposed to be cut by the Education Appropriations Committee. I think we can impact one or two of those in a positive way, but we need some direction from you guys on what one or two you'd like us to work on. They're not gonna be a 5% cut.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna-
it's just a matter of prioritizing the stuff on that list. And we ought to take a look at that. And I'm not suggesting doing it right now, but
Do it right now.
at some point, take a look at that and let us know what it is you want us to work on, because not all that stuff's gonna be cut.
We talk on Friday when some of us are up there.
That's perfect.
Is
That's
that-
perfect time. That's, next 2 weeks is when they'll start doing it.
Send the board that document.
Yep,
On the text thread.
I'll send it right now, as soon as we're done here.
It's great.
And Mrs. Oak.
Is there any appetite to them also similarly cutting the UFA or no?
Oh, no. We're years
Does
away.
it look like they're gonna continue to grow it this year?
I don't think they'll grow it this year in any significant way. But yeah, day's gonna come, but we're years away from it. Right. Yeah, they won't have a big year, but they won't get cut.
Thought it was interesting, the committee, Education Committee today, Rucci's bill actually adds accreditation to private schools. And yes, like saying that, hey, if you're gonna take public dollars, then you can go through accreditation. And man, she got,
Oh, I bet.
her friends came out.
Fun though.
No, I know. I thought, wow.
Brace her for this.
Yeah.
More
You know what?
She actually said there needs to be a committee that these micro schools, private schools, if they're gonna take public dollars, they should go through accreditation and.
There's too many people lobbying there
Uh,
that are gonna let that fly in.
Well, I'm just gonna put this out there. I am part of, my guess is why she's leaning that direction is because people are starting to wake up to the fact that no one can grandma the financial records or how it's being,
Right.
because it's currently being overseen by a nonprofit outside of the state of Utah, which was a deliberate move. So our state auditor cannot reach any of that information. It's all totally opaque, even though it's tax dollars. So it is insane. Yeah.
Recipe for corruption.
So absolutely, they should be going for more accreditation.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
I'll send that list right now.
Susan and Angie, please.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, the next item then is the Canyons Innovation Center branding and update. And this will be by Reed Newey, Director of the Canyons Innovation Center, and Kirsten Stewart, Associate Director of Community.
Thank you. Appreciate it, President Shield. Just as usual, when you form a team, it's best to pick Kirsten first. She always does more than her share of the work, and she has on this. We really appreciate what she's done in terms of kind of marshaling our group and taking a tremendous amount of feedback and consolidating into what we feel is coming up with a strong logo to present to the board as we try to move forward with increasing our branding and kind of really solidifying that. So with that, I'm going to let Kirsten take you through the process and show you what we have.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Truth be told, this was a super collaborative process involving a lot of people. Thank you, Rita, that was very nice. So first, we're just super excited to be talking about kind of the fruits of our labor as we work to bring the Canyons Innovation Center name and vision to life in the fall. And as I mentioned before, it has been a really collaborative process. You'll remember from our timeline, all of the stakeholder interviews, focus groups that we conducted. We had students at CTEC who were involved in the creation of the name. And then we've had virtual focus groups on the name since then. And of course, the board approved the name in September, and we've been working really hard since then to kind of bring this logo to fruition. But I want to give a real big shout out just to the core group that really kept this ball rolling forward. Reed, of course, but Hallenbeck, Justin Anderson was on the team. Jeff Olson, who's joining us in the back, he really helped us with refine the logo design. And Mandy in Reed's office, all of these people kind of kept our feet to the fire, which was a good thing. A little bit of background. So we did start with some concepts from an outside agency that were very polished, very professional. But at a pivotal point in this whole process, Doug Hallenbach had the great idea of, let's take these concepts and give them to the C-Tech media design students to kind of kick around and see what resonates with them. So we did that, and that's what you see pictured here, is students working on some of their concepts. And kind of what that revealed was that Ames Innovation Center, specifically the CIC acronym, really resonated with them. Not just as a name, but as a mark. So we kind of knew we were headed in the right direction there. And then just as a reminder, throughout this process, we've like used these metaphors for discovery as kind of our litmus test for every visual direction that we've explored. We've got, you know, the edges of perception, or this notion that we want students to seek beyond what they can see. And then collisions, right? A sort of catalyst for change, like Reed's vision of this as sort of like a collision center, right? Where students from different backgrounds and interests are kind of colliding around ideas, but also with industry leaders. So, using student ideas as inspiration, we worked in parallel with Jeff Olson in our office to kind of really refine the mark. We really wanted it to stand alone and kind of have some sort of gravitas, but also we really played around with the typography so that it sort of kind of carried the brand message forward too. So you kind of see that forward leaning, forward motion, energy in the typography. It feels really industrial, right? It feels professional. And this is a version where we felt like it really, you know, everything came together. So you can see kind of like the concentric C's remind me a little bit of like a ripple of water, like that, you know, kind of that collision. You've got the I in the middle for CIC, but it's kind of like a little bit like a lighthouse, kind of making a focal point, right? So I really like that. And then when you look at it, when it's really small and you kind of take a step back, it almost looks like an at sign, which to me kind of subtly reinforces that notion of at the point, you know? So I really like that. So the logo, like I said, it leans professional, it leans industrial, but we still think it's pretty cool on a hat too, right? It's still cool enough to be on a hat and on a t-shirt. This is in kind of more of a two-color, one-color application. So you can see how that looks there. The one thing I wanted to mention is like those the brand personalities that our stakeholders identified were a little bit at cross purposes with one another in a way, because it was sort of like, we want it to be credible and professional, but also at the same time exciting and young and, you know, fresh and creative and playful. And we think a good way to kind of bridge those personalities. So what we're proposing is sort of like the central color scheme you see there in the middle, and then you've got accent colors that we can play with from time to time from accent palettes. We're sort of envisioning this sort of an evolving identity system, kind of like, you know, Google and Apple, you know, those evolve throughout the years. They never remain static. So the idea is this mark, you know, remains the same, but it may change depending on the application, like the marketing campaign that you have it in, or whether it's on a sign or a t-shirt, or maybe even in reference to the different programs, right, that you're advertising. And so you can see another color palette there. One of the great things about having it, the flexibility, is I think it kind of speaks to what we want out of this innovation center, right? We want that dynamism kind of at the center. And also it sort of lends itself to like the digital applications, right? Logos these days, if you look at the home screen on your phone, they're all backlit, they're brightly colored, there's lots of gradients. They're all optimized for dark mode and mobile devices. And so it's kind of why we lean this direction. And then here you can kind of see how we see it woodworking and kind of like the camera lens there. So yeah, that's kind of like, that's dark. So, and it also lends itself really well, I think, to animation. So without further ado, I will play. That's it. So yeah, happy to entertain any questions or thoughts.
So, any comments? Mr. Adam?
I just want to say when I was opening the presentation, I was ready to not be super thrilled about it, but I think it's fantastic, so really like it.
I'm glad, thanks. As I said, it was a teamwork, many hands make it work.
Any other comments? Mrs. Nyla?
I love it too. I think it's totally awesome. One question I have is I really like that last part because the A is full on canyons and in all the other ones, there's a slash through the bottom stem of the A.
Yeah, you don't like that, the slash?
I'm not sure why it is that way. And my eye's kind of drawn to it and kind of takes away from the super cool logo.
Okay.
So that was my one thing. And so that's why I really loved that last animated part because the A is full.
Okay. Like that.
How it's full there. I like it.
Part of it is full, maybe it's got the mountains coming in on the
Yeah,
canvas.
this one is where the C was disrupted, sorry.
Oh yeah, the C was disrupted.
Iterations here, but
Oh, okay, so tell us the idea behind it.
the main mark was to have the A, cause it just sort of like, if you look at it, it feels a little bit like it's in motion, right? I see like Motor City and kind of like, you know, E500 movement.
It felt like it was flying to me, like it brought like thoughts of like aviation and stuff when I saw the A.
The wavelength, you know, you think about the
Yeah.
waves, we talked about the, you know, wavelengths and collisions and things too, so it brought some of that into it also.
And kind of harkens back to the Canyons A, right? That doesn't have the bar in the middle, right?
That's true, that's true.
I've always thought was cool.
Oh, no, do you still feel the same, Holly? Or schools were like,
I mean, yeah, if everyone's liking it, awesome. Like, I can totally see why it's great too. I'm funny. I like it. Like, I don't, it's probably like intentional marketing, right? Like when you're driving down the road and you see those billboards where they have stuff like that, it always kind of bugs me. But then you look at it longer and it stays in your mind. So it's,
Identifiable.
yes. And so probably the reason why I keep focusing on it is probably a good thing because it helps people pay attention more.
I do think you notice it, like, I
Just
just,
off.
yeah.
Really intentional.
I love that they're concentric circles, because that was the first thing I noticed. And what I love about it is that if you were throwing something into the water, like you were saying, it actually moves out. So our students are going to be impacting their industry and being part of that. But it also can be like a target where it moves in and you have the point right there in the middle. So it can, we can all come to the same consensus. I love it. Yeah, and I was looking at the little graphic you have of the student's computer.
Huh.
Some of their ideas of what it could have been, and
Mhm.
this is great.
Yeah. You can
That one right up there in the corner, you can see some of their ideas, and you know, they're not bad either, but I really think you've got the strongest message, and I like how you can change the texture behind it or in it
Cool.
to manifest its department, its focus. So I'm very pleased with this. This is great.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. It's awesome. I'm totally excited to wear the swag, so.
Yeah, right?
It's a really cool logo. I think people are gonna be like, hey, where does that come from? And it is very flexible, even though it's like solid and kind of stands for itself.
Okay, Mrs. Dolly.
Yeah, that was my question is when can I get a hat? But great job knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, it was so good.
Let me know, Mandy's actually been bugging me for the vector art. She's gotta wait.
Yeah, it's gotta be approved.
Release it yet.
Yeah.
Order them tomorrow.
It's true.
The board will get the first,
It's
What's the
awesome.
background, the main background color going to be? I mean, the consistent one. So
Yeah.
you say you're ordering hats. Are they gonna all have black hats with the thing or
we're gonna start with a black hat.
black?
I
Okay.
like that.
Because it's generic. I mean,
I
it goes
love
with
it.
everything.
Love it.
Well, we just try to stay away from anybody's.
Other colors. Just curious because you could put anything behind it. And that's the beauty of it.
Those textures in it are awesome.
Fun.
Totally. Really cool. Great job, Deb.
Okay, well, I think you guys did an awesome job here, so thank you.
Great.
Maybe someone else, is there anything else?
No, that's just, that's it. We got the ground scraped and we're heading forward on trades, so.
The logo actually makes me feel better about the name. Not gonna lie.
So what?
I didn't love the name,
Yeah.
but it makes me feel way better about it.
No, it became clear that it really resonates with me, so.
Not that we compare, but stack it against any of the other centers logos, it's far and away. better.
It's really cool.
Actually, it's good it's that name because we've been referring to it as that for now a few years. We'd have to really work hard to rebrand at this point.
Okay, well, thank you, Kirsten and Reed, and now, I cannot believe this, I thought we may go over in this meeting, so. Let's just keep this going toward our next meeting and keep it short. But I will now declare this meeting over and we will just start at 7, the business meeting. Thank you, everyone.
You really get a good nap in.
You're so close out.
Board of Education. Today is February 17th, 2026, and we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda for tonight, and I will now take a motion.
I move to approve the agenda for tonight, February 17th, 2026.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I will now call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and this will be led by Diamond Ridge High Principal Amy Betger, and then we'll hear some school highlights from her. Is your green button pushed?
Green button is now on. And please stand if you are able and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I thank the board for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I want to start out by saying, yes. Check, check. Better? Okay. I want to start out by saying when we hear alternative high school, we have some ideas of what that sounds like. Diamond Ridge is actually a school of choice, which means not disciplined kids being sent here, but families choose to apply for a lot of reasons. Jobs, family finance, students are bullied, social anxiety, disconnect from their big school, and mostly because they've fallen behind and lost hope. We have some great things to talk about tonight, why that's different. First of all, we have a wonderful music magnet program. Over 45% of the entire student body is enrolled in drums, stage band, guitar, and other performing arts. We have a strong Latinos in Action program, and we started a student government this year. Hundreds of volunteer hours by students support our food bank and tutoring elementary students by our LIA students. And finally, as you'll hear tonight, Diamond Ridge students really do embody the portrait of a Canyon scholar, especially by becoming innovators, resilient learners, and impactful citizens. So we took some data last summer. We wanted to see how students did at Diamond Ridge. And in our 10 years that ended with the class of 2025, students who had come to Diamond Ridge for at least 4 quarters have a 90% graduation rate, regardless of where they go after those 4 quarters. Secondly, the class of 2025 realized a graduation rate of 87.8%, which is the 4th highest in Canyon's district. And finally, Canyon students, Diamond Ridge students in particular, who are multi-language learners, students with IEPs on free and reduced lunch, and who are homeless, have a higher graduation rate than their peers in regular high schools and graduate at the same rate as their Diamond Ridge regular ed students. So that's pretty exciting information. And we've done something different this current school year. We weren't really happy with our student attendance rates, and at like many schools who are struggling with attendance since COVID, we made some changes. So here's a couple. We created new mini-terms, so we cut each academic quarter into 2 smaller terms. We added enhanced attendance requirements, enhanced GPA requirements, and began accepting juniors with only 2 credits, which we couldn't do before. And this is the results of that so far. So halfway through the school year, last year, 47% of students had a GPA of 2.0 or higher. This year, 77.5% of students. Last year, students with at least 90% attendance were 33%. This year, 90% of students have at least a 90% attendance rate. And to boot, students are no longer dropping out. Our MAP testing improved 35% last year, showing growth, to 90% showing growth this year. In reading, 7% growth over last year's rates. Our teachers are telling us they can add increased rigor and content because students are coming and they're not having to reteach. Discipline, our rates are usually pretty low at Diamond Ridge. However, we've seen a 50% decrease in office discipline referrals and more than 75% decrease in minor incidents. We also are seeing a decrease in students going to Entrada. And whether you know this or not, if a student goes to Entrada and they don't graduate with their cohort, they are automatically a dropout. And finally, and this is really exciting, many more students are returning to their home high schools because they were recovering credit for failed courses. So our future plans, Diamond Ridge has consistently been one of the highest performing alternative schools in Utah, and becoming more so because next year we're adding 4 concurrent enrollment courses. We will continue our mini-term project for long-term data analysis, and we anticipate an increase in the overall Canyons District graduation rate based on the improvements. And finally, we are seeing an increase of total numbers of students accessing Diamond Ridge because more students can come, get caught up, and go back to their boundary schools. So lots of great things going on at Diamond Ridge. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present.
Okay, thank you so much. That's really exciting, all that data you shared with us. That's amazing. And I love how you started by saying it was the school of choice. And I do want to commend your drum line because they were at Brighton High School early Friday morning at 8:30 on a day when there was no school for the ESP day, Professional Development Day. And they did awesome, so.
Only 2 of those kids ever played drums before they came to Diamond Ridge.
Wow, that's amazing. So thank you. Thanks for all you do. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Canyon Strong Student Recognitions, and that will be by Jeff Haney, Director, and Kirsten Stewart, Associate Director of Communications.
Thank you, President Schill. My son is a graduate of Diamond Ridge. He's a Raptor. I'm incredibly proud of that music program over there because Brandon Lupus, the teacher, went to marching band camp with Jaden when they were just 12 years old, and they were in Alta High's marching band all 6 years together. So it was nice to see Brandon and his students there on the stage performing at our ESP conference. And it looks like the person who has my presentation has stepped out of the room. There he is. But President Schill, thank you for the time that you grant us to recognize the ways that in Canyon School District you can learn more, do more, and be more. Our students are showing the world how Canyon strong they are in the classroom, on the stage, and on the field of competition. And that was never more apparent that at the 5A and 6A drill team state championships, Canyon School District was well represented by the 3 Canyons teams that scored high enough to get into the final round of judging. The Corner Canyon Shirelles wowed the crowds in 6A. They took 4th place overall. Hillcrest's drill team and the Brighton Acadians were stellar in the semifinal and final rounds of competition. Hillcrest took 4th place overall in the military division. Also, as a bonus to cap this drill team competition season, you can see there that the New York Times came into town and they profiled the Corner Canyon drill team in a feature on the unique style and high quality of performances of the Utah drill teams, especially in the military category. Congratulations to all of our drill teams, the coaches, and their parents for such a fantastic end to the season. Now, there's going to be a new face on the sidelines at Brighton High School's Friday Night Lights. A well-respected coach from Park City is coming to lead the Bengals. Congratulations to Coach Josh Montsingo. He was selected to be the new head coach after a thorough search by the Brighton administration. The coach had an impressive 82-win record at Park City, and that included 4 region trophies and 3 playoff appearances at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So, welcome to Canyon School District, Coach. We're glad that you're here to lead the Bengals. The 6A state champions in competitive cheer have solidified their reputation as a national force. Corner Canyon's cheer squad finished as silver medalists in both the varsity and game day categories at the recent UCA National High School Cheerleading Championships in Florida. So congratulations to the Chargers and Coach Whitney Lunt on a fantastic winning season. And you know, the sweet harmonies of the Canyons Youth Symphony and Canyon Symphony Orchestra could be heard recently at Abravanel Hall. That's one of the premier performing venues in Utah. With the two orchestras made up of 5th through 12th grade students, Canyons District was represented by more than 130 student musicians. Now, what an experience to play where prominent figures in the music world have come before, from Itzhak Perlman to John Williams and many more very famous artists. And now, the list of artists includes the students from Canyon School District. Congratulations to all of our up-and-coming student musicians. Also, you can see there that Eastmont Middle's chess team came out on top at the recent Canyons District Intramurals chess tournament for middle school teams. They won the title on their home board, so to speak. From quiet concentration to dramatic end games, it was a great reminder that competition doesn't always happen on athletic fields, and it's not always about speed and strength. Sometimes it's about thinking ahead, staying focused, and of course, having fun playing a game. At the competition, every 8-player team played every other team round-robin style. The games were 15 minutes apiece. Mount Jordan and Midvale Middle teams finished 2nd and 3rd. And we also want to give a big thanks to Eastmont's Taylor Hansen for coordinating the middle school intramurals program. He does a fantastic job bringing these events to life for our middle school students. Now, Canyon's student athletes in wrestling brought home a whopping 10 state individual championships to Canyon School District. History was also made at the 5A tournament. Hillcrest High's Eva Zimmerman finished with a 35-0 win-loss record and claimed her 4th consecutive state title. And that makes her the first girls wrestler in Hillcrest history to win 4 consecutive state titles. So congratulations to her. Now, counting Eva's win, Hillcrest's girls wrestling team earned 4 total state titles at the 5A tournament. This includes Caroline Pastrana and Katie Zimmerman, who each won their 2nd consecutive individuals titles, and Cassandra Pastrana, who won the 110-pound class. Hillcrest's Moroni Mahe repeated as a state champion in 5A, and he was joined in the champion circle by Alta's Dane King, a freshman who took home the state championship in 105-pound class. In 6A, the Corner Canyon Chargers had 4 state champions from their teams: Blake Mosh, Taylor Telford, Clarion Fager, and Piper Eller. And Blake is a repeat winner. Tanner won his first state championship at the 6A tournament. And Clarion and Piper are both repeat champions from last year. So congratulations to all of our wrestlers for their accomplishments and bringing those titles home to Canyon School District. Now, as a reminder, in the coming days, we'll be applauding students on the stage and graduates who have risen to the top of their sports. You can see there that we've listed all of the spring theater productions. They're starting this week. Alta High is performing the play That Goes Wrong. Brighton, they will do a spring showcase of the pieces that they are preparing for state competition. Corner Canyon is doing a 1-act play called Fortress that they will then perform at state competition. Following the 1 act, they will perform the other pieces they're preparing for state. And then Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical masterpiece, Phantom of the Opera, arrives at Hillcrest February 19th through the 21st, and again on February 23rd. And then Jordan High School will stage a student-written interactive show based on A Day Well Spent, which is a 1-act that they have turned, thanks to student playwrights with help from their teacher, into a 2-act play. The Beat Diggers production will be February 19th to the 21st and the 23rd. All the shows start at 7 o'clock. And Jordan's play will be in the Tech Atrium due to the renovations that are going on at Jordan right now. We also want to invite the community to a jersey retirement event for the Chargers, who are now playing in the NFL. Next Tuesday, on February 24th, we're celebrating the professional accomplishments of a New York Giant, Jackson Dart, a Raider, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Dolphin Zach Wilson. All three of our pro players, Jackson and Zach, have confirmed that they will be at the event when we retire their jerseys. At the event, during which we'll also hear from former Corner Canyon coach Eric Kerr, who now heads my Wildcats at Weber State. He coached all three of those young men. All three have become NFL standouts. And then afterwards, our field house will be open for visitors. It's free and open to the public if you would like to come and get autographs from the three hometown boys who have made it big in the NFL. Now, to wrap up our recognitions, we would be remiss if we didn't pause for a second and pay tribute to a colleague who has been with Canyons from our very first days. Since Sunday morning, we have mourned the loss of Janet Goebel, who has served as Canyons District's Director of Career and Technical Education. She's been with us since the very beginning for 17 years. Janet died on Sunday morning after a valiant battle with cancer. She was one of the first 100 employees ever hired in Canyons District, and she helped develop and maintain CTE programs and pathways that are regularly ranked among the state's best. Janet opened doors, built pathways, and believed in the promise of every student. Her gentle, kind, and dedicated leadership in CTE shaped the future for so many students. While at Canyons, she was the 2020 Utah CTE Administrator of the Year, served a dual role as both the Director of CTE and the Principal of the Canyons Technical Education Center, and one time in 2017 even testified about the importance of CTE in front of a congressional subcommittee. Her work has literally helped the lives of a generation of students who wanted to gain a certification or started their careers right when they were in high school. And it was because of the career-focused pathways in Canyon schools. This was Janet's life's work, and she's touched so many lives as a result. Janet, we will miss you. You are a friend, an inspiration, and a mentor. President Schill, I know the board and the administration did issue a statement. They honored Janet's contributions in an in memoriam that's now on the district's website. Tonight, I understand the board would like to enter into the official public record, the minutes of the meeting, a sentiment about Ms. Goebel for the community.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haney. The Canyons Board of Education honors Janet Goebel's dedication to the Canyon School District. We express our sincere condolences to Janet's family, friends, and colleagues in schools across the district and the state. For the official record of tonight's meeting, we provide this statement about Janet and her contributions as a founding administrator of Canyons District. Year after year, since the first days of our district, Janet was at the forefront of making sure job readiness remained a fundamental element of Canyon's mission and vision. Throughout her illness, Janet showed us all what grace and courage truly look like. Her memory will live on in the countless Canyon students who will graduate high school ready to succeed in the workplace, become leaders in their industries and communities, and strengthen the economic foundation of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, President Schill. If you will look up there, you'll see a photograph in the top left. That's Janet putting some balloons, and I know exactly where that's at. That's at the old Midvale Elementary School, and it was the very first day of the first year of the first new school district to be created in Utah in nearly a century. That was the day that we started our red carpet welcome for our students on the very first day of school, because Janet, like the other administrators, believed that the students are the stars of the day. She was there to celebrate and to welcome all of those students from Midvale Elementary to school for the first day of the year. That was in 2009. Janet, we will miss you. Thank you, President Schill. Janet Goebel was Canyon strong in so many ways, We honor her memory not just tonight, but with every workplace learning opportunity that is provided to Canyon students. We turn the time back to you.
Thank you. We now have come to the patron comment portion of the meeting. The board often designates time in meetings to listen to the patrons of the district. Patron comment time is limited to residents and taxpayers of Canyon's district, students and parents of students, and current employees of the district. Patrons may provide board members with written documents. These documents must be submitted to the board secretary, and she's right over there, at the meeting, or emailed to the Office of Public Communications by noon of the day following the board meeting. Tonight, individuals will be given 2 minutes. Those representing groups will be given 4 minutes. Comments made during patron comment time are part of the public record. It is the board's practice to listen and take notes during patron comments. The Board of Education does not discuss matters that are not on the meeting's agenda, nor engage in public comment on individual students to protect their privacy or employee issues. If a patron wants to comment on a district employee's character, professional competence, or mental or physical health, the board requests that those comments be submitted to the board in writing. However, if the patron determines to verbally comment on those personnel issues, the comments need to be civil and refrain from personal attacks, insults, defamatory, or slanderous comments about an individual. The Board of Education values input on all sides of issues. To maintain decorum and respect, we ask that those in attendance refrain from applause or other types of demonstrations during the patron comment time, as well as throughout the meeting. Okay, so tonight I'm going to read 2 names at a time, and so if that second person will just be ready to come up so we can go through this as quickly as possible. The first person will be Zhu Heitman, and then the second person will be James Hume.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ju Heitman. I'm a parent from Lone Peak Elementary. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. On behalf of the Lone Peak families, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of you, the board and the district leadership, for your work, time, dedication in keeping the 2-class cohorts. Thank you for helping us foster a stable and caring learning environment, and for your willingness to listen to our parents. We're fortunate to have a strong and dedicated school leadership. Both the DLI and neighborhood programs are led by outstanding teachers who care deeply about their students. We're also equally proud of our hardworking students and the devoted, supportive families who stand behind them. By working together as a unified team, we can continue strengthening our DLI program and further elevating the excellence of our school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next person is James Hume, and then Lisa Niederhauser.
Hello, my name is James Hume. I am a kindergartner at Lone Peak. Thank you for giving me a spot to learn Chinese. I am excited to learn Chinese so I can communicate with more people. I love being a student at Lone Peak. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you. That was very brave. Okay, now we're having Lisa Niederhauser, then Chase Farrington.
The Willow Canyon parents support the current plan to combine Willow Canyon and Park Lane at the Willow Canyon school site and welcomes Park Lane students and families should that be the final decision of the board. It is important to note that the majority of the Willow Canyon community and the voting constituents do not align themselves with board member Pedersen. While her email may claim to want to save our school for a variety of reasons, both valid as well as absolutely self-serving and biased, we disagree with her motives and her delivery. On multiple occasions, she has told our community in various meetings that we do not need to email or to call the board to express any concerns, only to discover days later that the boundary study is still examining smaller enrollment schools, and our school is, in fact, not safe. Furthermore, her inability to have honest and productive conversations with community members, her constant spreading of misinformation to community and faculty alike have shown us that she does not have the Willow Canyon or Park Lane community's best interest at heart. In my opinion, she is biased and incapable of voting in the best interest of Park Lane or Willow Canyon students and communities. As will be expressed in this meeting, Willow Canyon has a better existing structure, higher test scores, larger in-boundary enrollment, and a larger capacity. As a reminder, it is the responsibility of the school board and other administration to make fiscally responsible decisions on behalf of their voting constituents, as well as the student population as a whole. Our kids need stability. No more changes.
Okay, thank you. Now Chase Farrington and then Emily Hanson.
Hi, good evening. I'm the father of 5 children, all under the age of 5 years old. Don't ask me how that math pencils, but it says elementary education is very important to my family now and for many years ahead. Quoting recent studies, location and convenience continues to be public school parents' top reason for choosing their child's school. It's been openly acknowledged by the board that Park Lane occupies an ideal and strategic location, and that closing it would create a large gap. Intelligent opportunists will highlight and circle these educational dead zones as low-hanging fruit, and we'll see alternative options become more competitive in quality, quantity, and geographic reach. The district's goal of consolidating schools makes sense through a lens of optimal efficiency and budgeting, but if not executed with extreme precision and ironclad strategy, we compromise a foothold in this region and accept vulnerability to the #1 real-world driver behind school choice, location. There's also a misconception that our community is on an irreversible decline. Kids will not cease to exist along the East Bench by any means. Yet, population metrics are not the biggest threat to public school enrollment. Alternative options are. By not maintaining this necessary balanced access across its geography, the district is leaving its valuable yet highly substitutable services detrimentally exposed. You've built and directly influenced schools people want their kids to attend. Choosing Park Lane, even short-term closing Park Lane, even short-term for an unlikely rebuild means losing a strategic asset at precisely the time when tactical positioning matters most. Momentum lost will be nearly impossible to regain. Keeping Park Lane open is what makes the most strategic sense for the district's long-term health and competitiveness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Emily Hanson, then Amanda May.
There's a well-known saying in real estate that the 3 most important factors in any property decision are location, location, location. This saying first appeared in print in 1926, 100 years ago, and has endured because it's true. In the long term, location matters more than small differences in building condition or capacity. At the board meeting on January 20th, several board members acknowledged that Park Lane's location is preferable to Willow Canyon's, both for traffic flow and to avoid creating a large geographic area without a public school. There was even discussion of building a new school at Park Lane. I really appreciate these comments, but I'm also confused. If the plan is to rebuild Park Lane, why does the current proposal close Park Lane? Short-term actions should support rather than contradict the long-term plan. I'm excited about the possibility of a new school at Park Lane, but I'm also aware of reality. We all know that budgets, timelines, and district needs can change. Under the current proposal, if plans were to shift, our communities would remain at the less desirable location indefinitely. I'm also concerned about having to repeat the closure process. If we consolidate at Willow Canyon in 2027 and then move to Park Lane in 2031, my understanding is the board would need to complete the full 90-day closure process again in order to close Willow Canyon. The 90-day closure process puts significant strain on a school community. Asking a newly merged school to endure it again just a few years later would undermine stability, unity, and trust. In conclusion, the Park Lane and Willow Canyon communities need clarity about which school is closing, and we need a proposal that aligns with the long-term plan. There are several ways to accomplish this. You could revise the proposal to explicitly designate Willow Canyon as a temporary site. You could change the proposal and have our communities consolidate at Park Lane in 2027, or you could pause the proposal and not displace any students until you're ready to begin the rebuild. Whichever path you choose, I ask you to update the proposal to clearly reflect the long-term plan for our communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Amanda May, then Heather O'Kane.
Your schools, your voice, your community. This is the title to announce the boundary and enrollment study. However, as a Park Lane parent, I do not feel our school, our voices, or our community are being considered during this process. This community is not scared of buses, large schools, or change. However, we do fear losing something great without being given specific reasons behind the decision. For example, Park Lane was recently recognized as a positive outlier for student academic recovery during the COVID-19 pandemic by the Utah Education Policy Center at the University of Utah. Park Lane was the only Canyon school recognized for having minimal impact during and a large recovery after the pandemic. The community and culture at Park Lane were among the things listed as key factors for its success. The board continues to tell us that enrollment is going down across the district and schools need to close. No one is denying this fact, but what the district hasn't told us after 6 months of board meetings is why Park Lane continues to be the default. Recently, Salt Lake Tribune provided a breakdown between fall 24 and 25 enrollment. Yes, Park Lane is similar in enrollment. What is more telling, though, is the schools with similar enrollment that have experienced a much higher percentage of decline over the last year. So why is the board wanting to close Park Lane over others? Why is the board trying to close 2 elementary schools within a 2-mile radius? Our community has gotten up and spoken over and over again about our concerns and our frustrations. Even our students from Eastmont and Jordan have bravely stood in front of the board asking for help. Unfortunately, Proposal B does the opposite of helping Eastmont and Jordan and will only further weaken them. Over the years, Park Lane, Eastmont, and Jordan boundaries have changed to help other struggling schools. These decisions have crippled Eastmont and Jordan. My fear is our children will have their elementary, middle, and high school all closed during their K through 12 education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Heather O'Kane and then Catherine Torillo.
Good evening. My name is Heather O'Kane. I'm here tonight in support of Willow Canyon Elementary. I have 2 children at Willow Canyon and currently serve as vice president of our PTA. Our community supports the current proposal to combine Willow Canyon and Park Lane at the Willow Canyon site. If that is the board's final decision, we will welcome Park Lane students and families and work together to build a strong unified school community. That said, I have serious concerns about capacity and district-wide boundary issues that remain unresolved. While a new building is planned, the root problem, misaligned boundaries, has still not been addressed. The Eastmont feeder system continues to be structured in a way that sets it up for ongoing challenges. We are seeing short-term fixes instead of a thoughtful, long-term plan to address declining enrollment and boundary imbalances across the district. These repeated changes cause instability, divide communities, and increase costs. We strongly recommend a comprehensive boundary review across the entire district, elementary, middle, and high school, beginning with the high schools. Clear feeder patterns should allow elementary communities to remain together through middle and high school. Stability strengthens relationships, builds community, and supports student success. Both Park Lane and Willow Canyon are consistently top-performing elementary schools in East Sandy. With a district-wide enrollment crisis, why are elementary closures being prioritized before a full boundary redraw? Finally, it is my opinion we have not been represented fairly or responsibly in this process. Our board member has contributed to division across Willow Canyon and Park Lane, spread misinformation, and demonstrated that her primary focus appears to be re-election rather than the best interests of students. Our students and communities deserve impartial leadership focused solely on what is best for our children. For these reasons, I respectfully request that Karen Pedersen be removed from the Long-Term Planning Committee and recuse herself from boundary votes related to this issue. Our kids need stability, no more constant changes, and they deserve a clear, responsible, long-term plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have Catherine Torello and then Nye Cannell.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Torello. I'm a Willow Canyon parent and the PTA chair for Literacy Month. I would like to speak about long-term plans for our schools and some continued unanswered questions our community has. First, what is the plan for buildings of schools that are going to be closed? No neighborhood wants an empty, unused building. We're also aware of a proposed bill in the Utah State Legislature that would give charter schools first choice of closed school buildings. If that happens, it could further impact enrollment across the district. What is the district's plan to address this possibility? Second, why is Park Lane site being selected for the proposed future new school build? Other schools in the district are being rebuilt, are remaining on their current sites where schools are being merged. Willows Canyon is more centrally located, has a larger property. It has more level terrain that appears better suited for construction. According to Salt Lake County property records, Park Lane sits on 10 acres, while Willow Canyon sits on 13.67 acres. That is a significant difference in usable space. Additionally, upcoming changes in the DLI program could increase enrollment at both schools. Since large DLI programs will no longer be offered at other locations, why not wait until the impacts of next year's school closures and DLI changes are fully understood? Enrollment at each of these high-performing elementary schools should be evaluated after these changes take effect. I want to remind and reiterate that in May, President Amber assured us that they would take 2 years, like the last time they did boundary changes. And at this point, we're not getting that time. We're on a very rushed timeline. At Willow Canyon, we parents support the current plan to combine Willow Canyon and Park Lane at the Willow Canyon site, should that be the final decision of this board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Nye Cannell and then Elizabeth Flam.
Hello, members of the board. Thank you for hearing the Lone Peak Elementary community. As a Lone Peak parent, we truly value and love the DLI program, and it serves Canyon School District as a competitive advantage. On the Lunar New Year, saving the Mandarin DLI program at Lone Peak gives us more to celebrate. As we know, this is another year of DLI. The parents of Lone Peak are committed to helping promote and increase enrollment at our school to continue the demand for our great program. We want to continue with the board in finding ways to both support and promote the program together. Maintaining our award-winning teachers, U.S. News and World Report rankings is something we should seek. Thank you again for hearing our voices.
Okay, thank you. So now is Elizabeth Flam and then Laura Anderson.
My name is Elizabeth, and I have 4 children currently enrolled in Canyons. I appreciate that tonight there was discussion on high-quality learning. Last month, I read the book Digital Delusion by Jared Horvath, and tonight I have brought a copy for each member of the school board as well as the superintendent. Horvath emphasizes the need for better learning opportunities, and one of the best ways is for children to have excellent in-person instruction. Horvath spoke at a press conference at the Utah Capitol at the beginning of the legislative session this year. He is an educator that has become a neuroscientist to study human learning. This book discusses the fact that our children are less cognitively capable than we were at their age. And the book is packed with data backed by research findings. The most interesting thing that I found in the book is that he brings to light through international data that EdTech is not working the way we want it to, and that we as parents, teachers, schools, and administrators can each make changes to help our students. Horvath specifically touches on paper versus screen, pen versus keyboard, and handwriting versus typing, and how paper, pen, and handwriting support better comprehension and memory, as well as deeper understanding and test performance, all of which are things that Canyon students deserve. Last year, the book, The Anxious Generation, was brought before the board by a parent. That book talks a lot about the social and emotional tolls screens take on our children. This book is different in that it specifically discusses the measurable lack of impact EdTech is having on the learning of our children. Canyons District is here because of the children.
They deserve the best learning. Taking a hard look at ed tech and the need to retrench away from it is needed. I strongly encourage all administration to read this book and think about how Canyons can help children have the highest quality learning environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we have Laura Anderson, and then, yeah, she'll give them to us. Thank you. Laura Anderson, and then Annalisa Edmonds.
Okay, I also have a few concerns about the current proposal. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of joining with Park Lane. I've seen these parents go to bat for their students and their school, and I absolutely love it. They have shown that education and the community are very important to them, and I have no doubt that we, the Park Lane and Willow Canyon parents, will be an unstoppable force when it comes to fighting for the rights of our students. I see it as an army is growing in strength and numbers, and I'm excited to see the amazing things we can do together. Our kids are so dang lucky. But I have a few questions. For example, what's your plans with all the preschools in this area? Quail Hollows will need to be relocated. Willow Canyons will need to be relocated, as well as Bella Vistas. Where on earth do you plan on putting these preschools? One of the main points we've heard over and over is leaving a giant geographical gap with no elementary school, but what about preschool? That leaves an insanely huge gap for no place for these preschools to go, which means little tiny kids with disabilities are gonna be sitting on the bus for hours to go to a 2.5-hour preschool. That's something that's very important that needs to be looked at. What are we gonna do when all these kids who thought they were going to the DLI program don't get in, and they're in our boundaries, and they also need a place to go, and our numbers suddenly go up? What about the new apartment complex that's supposed to be built on Sego Lily and 13th East? 150 apartments going in, and to which Holly Nybar said last time, those are now housing students. It's a different demographic. They will be coming to our school. Where are we going to fit all of these people? As others have said, I'm also wondering why Park Lane site was chosen to build the giant school on. It seems very unfair that Quail Hollow will rebuild at Quail Hollow, Sandy will rebuild at Sandy, East Midville will rebuild at Eastmont, but Willow Canyon will rebuild at Park Lane. That means my kindergartner will have a change in first grade when we combine with Park Lane. And then again in 5th grade, he'll have to move schools. Then again to go to 6th grade. That's not just one kindergartner, that'll be 100 kindergartners who are gonna have all that change over and over again. It makes sense to have some stability for them. And speaking of middle school, we are absolutely dying to know what you will do with Eastmont. I've been up here thousands of times begging for change, yet I see the proposal tonight has absolutely nothing in it about Eastmont. Again, it is dying, and it will die if this feeder system isn't protected.
Okay, thank you. Annalisa Edmonds, then Lane Vaminakis. And please correct me if that's wrong, I'm sorry.
Willow Canyon parents support the current plan to combine Willow Canyon and Park Lane at the Willow Canyon school site. We're excited to welcome Park Lane students and families. We're excited to expand and combine our two amazing communities. I'd like to speak to the traffic safety at our schools. Traffic flow in and around Willow Canyon is cohesive. There are designated bus lanes and parent traffic lanes with plenty of parking for those guardians who park to pick up. For example, Park Lane currently has 82 parking spots compared to 148 spots at Willow Canyon, an 80% increase compared to Park Lane. At Willow Canyon, there are 2 parking lots, one for buses and one for pedestrians with separate entries from the main road. While we have crossing guards who are helpful and aware, the traffic flow keeps our student population safe and ensures an easy and safe return home for each of our students. I am strongly against rebuilding a combined school at Park Lane's current location. This proposal is akin to the board dumping millions into Eastmont when other options were more fiscally responsible. The rebuilding proposed on the district's website this week has only 80 parking spots at the new location at Park Lane. Again, Willow Canyon currently has 148 parking spots. Why are we building a new school when there is a good school with a long life ahead of it? Willow Canyon can fit both schools without a new build right now, and it has 80% more parking than the proposed new built school. The board must pick a side. You're either combining schools to save money, or you are spending more taxpayer money to build new schools that are projected to remain at low capacity. The Willow Canyon school location should be chosen for the current proposal to combine and for future years to come. We are asking the board to be fiscally responsible and stop throwing money into poorly planned proposals. Our community needs thoughtful proposals that make fiscal sense. Our kids need stability. Our kids need safety.
Okay, thank you. Lane.
Hello. I am a mother of 4 kids in Canyon School District. My youngest is Charlie, and he is a 3rd grader at Willow Canyon Elementary. On September 2nd, the Long Range Planning Committee presented closure recommendations and then invited public input. Tonight, many Willow Canyon parents will speak about and have spoken about our school and why it should remain open.
I support them. My concern, however, is how this process has divided two neighboring communities. Willow Canyon and Park Lane are both deeply involved, highly functioning school communities. We are also neighbors. We shop at the same grocery stores, gather at the Sandy Library, and enjoy the occasional sounds of the Sandy Amphitheater reverberating through the streets. We should be united. Instead, unclear direction and shifting decisions have unintentionally pitted us against one another, creating a dynamic where families feel they must advocate against the other school to save their own. If these schools combine, as I believe we eventually will, two communities who were forced to compete will now be asked to blend. Our children will share classrooms, parents will volunteer together, and we will have to build something new side by side. Communities are not lines on a boundary map. We are built through years of volunteering, trust, and shared identity. A new mascot or school name cannot repair the damage that has been created by a rushed and divisive process. I believe this process has been made worse by bending to pressure, not showing a strong, united front, and thinking of your own political agendas and careers. I hope both Willow Canyon and Park Lane communities will keep in mind the impossible position that we have been put in by those who we have elected to lead us. This is a complicated work, and there is not a solution that will make everyone happy. But strong leadership requires clarity, steadiness, and a commitment to unite, not divide the people you serve. I urge this board to move forward with consistency, a clear long-term vision that prioritizes community cohesion over short-term pressure. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of our patron comments, and thank you all for being here. And we do appreciate you parents being willing to come and speak and tell us your opinions. It's important to us and part of the process, so thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and I will now ask for a motion, and please read the reasons, each item.
I'll make that motion. I make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes item A, approval of minutes for February 3rd, 2026. Item B, approval of hire and termination reports. Item C, approval of purchasing bids. And item D, approval of January financial reports.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of passing the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next item on our agenda is new business, and that first item A is 2026-2027 fee schedule. This is the second reading, and this will be by Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator.
Thank you, President Schill. And I want to just thank all the parents and employees that we've had come speak tonight. We really do appreciate your comments. And I also want to just second what Jeff said about Janet. Janet and I were very close. We worked together for 17 years, and she will be missed. And our thoughts and prayers are with her family at this time. Just want to I'm going to go through this quite quickly if it's okay. This is the second reading of the fee schedule. Went over the first one in study session 2 weeks ago. The items in red font are new. The items in the black font are just carried over from that presentation 2 weeks ago. Just want to hit a couple things as we go through this. We talked about the legislature possibly pulling back the $35.5 million that they designated 2 years ago to offset some school fees that are going away. And the public ed approps, their final recommendation is that they restore the 17.5 or 17.8 million that went to school districts back in September, that not be pulled back, that we get to keep that funding. So we'll see where that goes. We do not expect to get the money that we were expected to receive the next 2 years. That would be that bottom bullet. About $550 million next year and $370 in FY28. We don't think that will be coming to us, but we are hopeful to get, at least be able to keep the $923,000 we got for this year. We'll see how that turns out as it goes through the final weeks of the legislature. A couple things that this general fund fee or this registration fee funded for us. We talked about the credit card processing of about $40,000 per school. 90% of our fees are paid with credit cards. We do take ACH, which is still charged a fee, and a few still pay with checks, but 90% is through credit cards. The overtime for our custodians who have to do Saturday events, the assistant coaches who work in, that our gate receipts just cannot cover, as well as the huddle camera film system there. In the elementary, just to reiterate, elementary and middle schools, we have no proposed changes to the fee schedule. Keep in mind, we cannot charge for elementary schools except for the morning and afternoon orchestra and band classes that we have there. Here's the high school ones that we again put out. The maximum per high school student will remain at $6,000. We only have we don't have any student reaching that this year. We've had a couple in the past. Usually they have to have the C-Tech, be in the C-Tech cosmetology program to get there. Class fees will remain at the $35. We are proposing parking increase from $10 to $20. You can see the revenue that we would generate from that. Then we also propose increasing at the $10 participation fees for all extracurricular activities. This would be sports teams and groups. We expect that to generate enough to cover the custodial cost on Saturdays, whether it be for the theater or for the sports teams. That should cover that expense. One thing that we wanted to look at or let you know is that we want to add a mock trial fee. That would be the same as debate. Hillcrest and Brighton are the two schools that currently have that program, and we did add that to their schedules, but as if other high schools pick that up, would add that as well. Again, that would be same fee as the debate. And again, as we mentioned last time, we'll probably have to look at regular fee increases in participation fees to cover inflation going forward. Here's the C-Tech fees. You can see those to get the required certificates for our students. I won't go through those by line, but you can see those there. No changes from our last meeting. 2 pages. Want to emphasize the very last bottom. The new program, our medical scholars concurrent enrollment credit at Weber State. Can get you our students 4 concurrent enrollment credits there. Again, that's a new one coming online that we started this semester. Here's some possible changes. Again, the last several years there have been multiple changes to school fees. Some have gone through, some have not. 2 small ones this year, or smaller I should say. The one where we could charge for a science class. Again, we cannot charge for ELA, health, math, or social studies, but the one for science has not been heard in a committee. I'm kind of guessing that will not go through this year, but could go through in a future year. Again, we have to maintain starting next year, a no fee path for students to graduate. So we would have to make sure there are some science classes that do not charge fees moving forward if this does become an option. Right now it is not. And then one that likely will pass is House Bill 142, easily passed the House, as you can see there, and then is moving on to the Senate. That's where students on waivers can still go on 1 trip, but if they go on a 2nd or 3rd trip, they have to have a written agreement with an action plan with the principal about doing tutoring, doing some custodial work or something to help offset the cost of that. So again, that one will likely pass, so we'll have to make our principals aware of that. Here's the fee schedules. I won't go through all those, but for the middle and high schools. Here's what we've done since the last meeting. We sent out on Parent Square information about the proposed fee schedule for next year. That went out on February 6th. So I have 2 boys. I received that email. Those of you who have students should have received that email on the 6th. We got a few comments back. I want to emphasize we got 1 comment over the weekend. So if you read this over the weekend, there would be 1 more comment that was added. So we'll take your direction, but we'd be happy to send out another one this upcoming week for more feedback.
And then would bring this back for your approval either at next meeting, March 3rd or our March 31st meeting. So there's where we're at with that. I want to go through that fairly quickly, but I'll take any questions, comments you may have. And if you'd like us to go ahead and send out another parent square on this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Are there any comments? And I see Mrs. Nybar has her hand up.
Thank you. I looked at all these slides, of course, before the meeting, and I am interested in doing another feedback cycle. I think that's great. And I was wondering if we could also maybe even have ask our SCCs just to make people aware to see if we can get a little more attention on this, because I know sometimes it's difficult for us to get the feedback we're seeking. So
I can ask Tom. Mainly it's the high schools, right? It's 90% of our fees are high school related. So I can ask Tom if he can reach out to the high school principals. If they have a SCC meeting, that'd be fine between now and then, and see if they can get more feedback on that. Yeah, sure.
Okay, any other comments? Board, are we fine with that, sending out another notice and then the high school principals? Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. And then now I think we can go on to the next item, and that is item B, Long Range Planning Committee update. This will also be by Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator.
Again, we're pulling that up. Again, appreciate all the parents and comments that have been shared with us tonight. So it's got to be out there.
Sometimes technology doesn't work.
Sometimes technology. Yes.
Anyway, I'll just start by thanking the Long Range Planning Committee. I know you guys had another really long meeting to get to this presentation, so thank you everyone who's on that. It's on the website, you guys.
Times like this, I wish I had a few jokes, but I don't have any tonight.
I know. Why don't you have a joke
I know, I'm
tonight
so
for
unprepared.
us?
I feel awful.
You need to always have a couple prepared, Leon.
Yeah. Amount of snow tonight, anybody? 2 inches, 6 inches, we're hearing all kinds of things. So.
Let's hope a lot. Not at our houses though, just in the mountains.
It should be said that I do have a 13-year-old, going on 14-year-old and 8th grader at home. He has promised Rick $5 anytime he closes school. So Rick, that is out there for you. We'll put that on public record tonight. He's up at 4 with you. No, trust me, he's not getting up at 4.
I know. So,
It's
so
hard.
parents, these guys get up at 4
hard
a.m. to make the decision about whether
It's hard
to
enough
delay
getting him up
school.
in time for school. Yes. Those with 8th graders probably know that.
yes.
Again, we've been meeting as the long-range planning. Thank you for getting this up. You know, the bottom line while we're going through this is we know our enrollment has decreased, and we know it's going to continue to decrease. We know school choice plays a big role in that. There is no doubt about it. We also know there's always going to be kids in East Sandy and all our areas. We know that as well. But we also know there's just not going to be, right now, we're just not having as many kids. And that's signified by, you know, we went over this a couple meetings ago, our birth rate. These are the number of births we've had in our zip codes. You can see the information starting in 2007 till 2024, the last year we had information. You see we're almost down 1,000 births. And that has just filtered through the system. Right now, our incoming kindergarten class is expected to be about 800 to 900 students fewer than our graduating senior class.
And so that gets into that, why we're just decreasing in enrollment. And so, and why we're having to make these really hard choices that we really wish we weren't in, but we know we have to do something here. One of the things that we always hear about is, again, school choice. And we know that we're losing some to homeschools. One of the things that we always poll and monitor is those students we learn who live in our boundaries who attend a charter school. And on your tax statement, you will see you pay a portion of property taxes to charter schools. And that's based on a pretty complicated and lengthy formula that's created at the state and maintained at the state. But one of those key factors is the number of students you have residing in your boundaries who attend a charter school. Now, you may have charter schools in our area where kids from South Jordan or Holiday come. They're not residing in our boundaries. But these are the number of students who reside in our boundaries who attend charter schools. This number is based on a 2-year lag. So you can see there in 2019, on October 1, we had about 3,900 students. We call them DORs, District of Residence, students who lived here who attended a charter school. They don't have to, again, attend a charter school here. They could also attend one in Riverton or in Lehigh, okay, but they do live here. So you can see there, we have 3,900. In 2020, I don't have the number. I know there were some impacts with COVID because it would have been based on that October 1 of 2020 count. But then you can see the last 3 years, it's been pretty consistent. Now, we know the number of students has gone down, so we'd expect that to go down, but it's been fairly consistent. But you can see the number of students who reside here, who attend a charter school. Next year, we'll get the number, actually later this year, we'll get the number from 2024. I do not have that, but that will be used in next year's calculation for that. And then 25's, what was happening on October 1, 2025 will be used in the 27-28 calculation. But you can see they've been fairly consistent with those students attending charter schools. And, we're trying to make sure we take the time and analyze everything here. And one of the things that we're trying to do is listen to the community and try to take as much feedback back as we can. We've heard to try to keep communities together, particularly elementary, middle, high school. We heard that again tonight. Strengthening the Jordan feeder. We've got a couple slides on that. We know that's an issue, and we're trying to find resolutions to that, as well as addressing our aging K-5 schools. We've addressed our secondary schools, but we know a lot of our elementary schools were built in the 70s or 60s, and they need a lot of work, and we know that. And how do we go about doing that? Is it through either renovating or rebuilding? Oops, going the wrong way here. So here's our middle school projected enrollment starting next year. And you can see some of them are fairly stable. Again, this is found on Board Docs, so I know the names may be a little blurry, but we do expect to see decreases in Draper Park. Just again, aging out and the expense of the housing down there. Albion, lots of these schools that we're studying, whether it be Oakdale, Quail Hollow, Granite, Silver Mesa, that are decreasing in enrollment, feed into Albion. So again, we're expecting a decrease there over the next 5 years. The others fairly stable. We know Eastmont's the bottom one there. We do expect them to be fairly stable the next 5 years, but you can see the difference there between them and the other 7 middle schools. And we have one solution that we not quite ready to present, but are working on that. We know this is probably going to be a phase-out period where we have to go through this to try to adjust that issue again with the Eastmont feeder and the Jordan High feeder. You can see our high schools. Corner Canyon, we expect the biggest decrease there. That will align with the Draper Park decrease. The others we expect to be fairly stable. Again, we do start pulling students back from homeschool and from charter schools back into when they get into the high school ages there. So you can see Jordan's still expected to be relatively stable, but we know it is smaller than the other schools out as well. But you can see where we're looking at trying to correct the best we can. We'll never be perfect going forward with that. Again, Eastmont and Jordan, should be said, looking at what we can do to support there. We have put in about 12 million of upgrades there. So if you've been inside to see the new restrooms, the new floor, the new tile, it's still a school that was open in 1973. So it still has that. I think the biggest improvement has been the lighting, if you've seen the new LED lighting in there. But it is, an avid school, has a STEM designation, won our chess championship and our debate championship just recently. So we have some fantastic kids there working with some great teachers. And so we want to keep strengthening that the best we can. Again, as we look at this long-term vision, so I'm going to change focus just a little bit here and look at how we address our long-term building out period with some of these aging elementary schools. This is our current outstanding debt. I'm not going to go through all these colors here, but you can see it starts tapering off in about 2030 and then starts going down to ends in 2040. This would be both our general obligation debt and our lease revenue debt, all of it right there. So right now we're paying just about 58 million in debt and will for the next couple years. What we're proposing to do is introduce two colors, if you will. That would be the purple and the red. Everything else is staying the exact same. To look at rebuilding some schools moving forward. Again, that would start in, the purple would be introduced, a new building in the 29 year, and then the next year we'd look at issuing more debt, building 3 schools, possibly up to 3 schools at that time period. You can see we start lengthening that out into the 2040s. So it would be about a 15, 16, 17 year bond depending on where we issue it. So as I said, one school could start as early as 2028 and open in 2030. It takes about 18 to 20 months to build a school now with all the electrical and structural and also the safety requirements there. We used to be able to do it in about 15 months, but that's just not possible anymore. It's about 18 to 20. We could start another 3 schools a year after that in 2029 and 30, then they would open in 2031. All these we'd have to issue this debt, but it'd have to conform with the requirements of state law at the time. The legislature does change those from time to time, and we'd also need to convert our GO bond debt into capital debt, which would require a tax hearing for that. Okay, we try to keep the amount neutral for the taxpayers, but it would require a tax hearing. We want to emphasize that, this is our proposal, but it is subject to change by state legislation, property tax legislation, interest rates, construction costs, and there could be other factors. So we want to emphasize that, but that would be the plan going out, moving forward. So here's what we've looked at as a long range. Again, some of this is focused on the Eastmont and Jordan feeder the best we can. And when I say Jordan, that would also include Mount Jordan. And that would be to look at rebuilding Sandy Elementary on site. That would be our, what I'd call phase 1. We'll go over that in the next couple slides. Then in phase 2, which would begin in fall of 2029, open in 31, we'd look at rebuilding Ridgecrest and Bella Vista, or that school on the Ridgecrest site, Park Lane and Willow Canyon on the Park Lane site, and then either the Granite Quail Hollow on Quail Hollow site or rebuild East Midville on its current site. The one that we didn't do would be what we'd call phase 3. That could start in 2031, open 33, okay? That is our proposal that we're looking at moving forward. Just talk about these briefly. Why Sandy? Well, Sandy is our oldest school, built in 1951. The next 2 schools are Copperview and Crescent, which are 10 years younger. We've done lots of upgrades to Sandy, but it's still the oldest school, and still some of the original fixtures, if you will, are still there, mainly in the plumbing. So it needs restroom upgrades and HVAC that we always have trouble controlling with this building that old. And we'd want to look at expanding Sandy's elementary boundary to focus on Mount Jordan and Jordan High and look at the feeder alignment with that. This is what we could look at. You can see where Sandy Elementary is. Now, one of the things, so that would be, I'll point here. So you can see Sandy there. One of the things that we could look at is expanding its boundary here into Copperview and pulling those students up, then adjust the middle school boundary and the high school boundary accordingly. We could also look here at the bluffs, the new bluffs here. This is Ivy Lane, and pulling those students around as well, having those go to Sandy, then Mount Jordan, Jordan High. One of the things, we wouldn't make this effective until the 2030, till that school got rebuilt, because we'd want to limit the number of buses and other vehicles going on site during construction. I want to emphasize those red lines are just estimates at this time. We'd probably look to bring in around 100 more students into Sandy Elementary. It has about 450 right now, make it around 550 if we could. Again, that would go into Mount Jordan and Jordan High from there. Second one is moving to phase 2. We'll start with Bella Vista Ridgecrest. The name will still be Ridgecrest next year, but we'll probably look to rebrand that. We'd look to start that construction in 2029, open in 31. That has the high FCI score of 90, about 92. So it has needs of HVAC. You're going to see this HVAC in lots of our schools, but also plumbing, electrical, restrooms, millwork. We are going to put down some carpet this upcoming summer. It desperately needs that. This will be a big school once it's done. It's going to be around 600 once it's combined, and we expect it to stay there in that range. But when we build the new school, we'd look to rebrand it. We like building it on the Ridgecrest site for the reason that we want to keep a strong presence in that area of Cottonwood Heights, as we already have. So that would be west of Highland, whereas we already have Butler Elementary east of Highland that we rebuilt in 2016. So that's the reasoning behind putting that there. Again, still some work to do with the city on that park that's next to it on how we can rebuild with that. Here's a couple renderings, again, of possibilities. This is looking at using the Glacier Hills School elementary model right there. Here's the current Ridgecrest Elementary. We would build right here on site. Again, keep the students there. We'd like moving them to, obviously you always want to look at moving students off, but the Bella Vista building is just not big enough to hold them. It only has 23 classes. And then so we would obviously put in a safety fence there to protect all the students and teachers. And then when it's done, we'd look at A, and then you'd have a ball field where the old building was. I think it would turn out to really be a nice campus and facility there. Want to emphasize, every school site has pluses and minuses, building on site, and it mainly depends on where the current building is, okay? And so you can have a large site with 15 acres and have the building in a certain place, and it's really hard to build around it. You could have a smaller site and still be able to build around it based on where the current building is located. It's just every school is different in that factor. Those of you who were around, primarily President Schill, we had to rebuild Brighton and Hillcrest with 2,000 students on campus, on site at the same time. So that was quite a challenge. So, but we've done this both ways. We've moved students off, as we did with Peruvian Park and Glacier Hills, but we rebuilt Alta View, Butler Elementary, and Mid Valley, all on site. So we've done it both ways. Our preference is to move them off, but we know that's not always a possibility. Here's another rendering of Bella Vista and Ridgecrest. Just me, I kind of like this one a little bit better because you may get better views of the mountains, but we'd see that decision does not need to be made tonight. But again, the play field here, you can see where the distance is. You got to maintain a fire truck access between two buildings and even more than that going forward. So And this is how it would look. I know we had an option out there where it has Canyons Elementary School. We want to emphasize no names been decided on this new school, but that gives you an idea of how it could look in moving forward. Next one would be Park Lane, Willow Canyon on site, building on the Park Lane site. Again, we could start that in fall of 29, open in 31. The main reason we want to do it at the Park Lane site is to maintain that strong presence for the Eastmont feeder and the Jordan feeder, as getting as far east in Sandy as we can. That would be the main reason there. Now the other reason is, well, why not go to Park Lane now and consolidate there for a couple years? And the main thing is just the condition of Park Lane. Willow Canyon has had more updates. Park Lane's chillers and boilers are still functional, but they're 2005 models. Hard to get parts for those. The carpet needs to be replaced. The wall carpet needs to be removed. Millwork, restrooms, lighting. The asphalt's in pretty good condition, but the parking lot needs a design, and we could easily do that with the rebuild there. All these, you're looking at around the cost of about $2.5 million right now. When these are combined, would be about $580, as we've talked in the past. We'd look to rebrand these with a new name, maybe pull in a DLI or a STEM program to try to, again, build up that Eastmont feeder going into Jordan from there. Here's how it would look. Again, it would be just about impossible to build Park Lane on site. You can see there where the current building is. The idea would be basically put the new building where the existing building is, but just push it back about 15 to 20, maybe even 30 feet back. So it would still occupy this would probably be about the front door right here and the parking. So right here would be the front door. And again, it'd go back into the parking lot a little bit there. Again, we'd have a bus drop off here as we do at Glacier Hills, and then the parking in front there. So that's what we'd look at. When you do this, you could easily fix the grade at the Park Lane building. So obviously to do that, the students would have to be off-site. So our recommendation would be to move them off-site for the first 2 years and then start this construction in 2029 with that. So they would have to, if we did nothing, if we did not consolidate them now, but wanted to wait 2 years, we could do that, but they would have to consolidate at the Willow Canyon building starting in 2029. I know there was one comment, well, you'd have to do another hearing to bring that back or to close Willow Canyon. It is our understanding we would not have to do that because it is one school. The boundary's not changing. The school is not closing. It's just being relocated to another part of the school boundary. So we would not have to go through the school closure process again in 2031. Here's, again, so there's, again, phase 2 or phase 3. I don't know which one the board wants to look at, but building Quail Hollow on the, rebuilding Granite and Quail Hollow on the Quail Hollow site. Again, starting that construction in 2029. And opening, or you could open in 31 or 33, whatever you want to do. We want to build that long-term synergy with Albion Middle. We know through the earlier charts that Albion, we expect to start seeing pretty big decreases there. The biggest thing at Quail Hollow is the carpet and the millwork, restrooms. That just needs a big refresh there. Again, once we are projecting a large enrollment, about 550 kids. That would include the EEC moving forward with that. Here's how it looks at Quail Hollow site. I think we could build one there, but it would be tough. I think our recommendation at this point would probably be to relocate back at the Granite building for 2 years where we rebuild on site for that school. But again, want to keep that big focus on that strong feeder with Quail, Granite combined, moving into Albion, then on to Brighton with that, okay? And the last one, oops, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Last one is East Midvale. Again, you could do either the Quail Hollow Granite School or the East Midvale. East Midvale has, you can see its FCI score. It's one of our older buildings, opened in 1966. We have done some work there with a new roof, new carpet, but we still have issues with the restrooms, the millwork. The layout of the building is unique. It was a unique design back in 1966. Some really like it, some really like it much less. So, but you can see it's laid out in these pod areas here. Plenty of room to rebuild on site. We don't really have a vacant school. We're always hesitant to bus kids, elementary kids, long distances. You know, the furthest we bused elementary kids was when we redid Proverian Park, bust them down to the Crescent View building, but was about 4 miles. We're hesitant to go more than that because, you know, parents try to come and pick them up for doctor's appointments or music lessons or whatever, and they're just driving further. So that's one of the concerns we have there. But we have plenty of room. We think we could build a great campus on site back in that space there. So again, trying to, I'm going to go to that second bullet, evaluate our current boundaries to assess alignment with long-term sustainability and the healthy K-12 feeders. That's what we're trying to get at there, and really try to do what's best for our students moving forward. And you can see the other bullets. We've put those out there before. I won't go through all those. Here's the timeline that we're proposing right now. You can always change this, but at the January 20th meeting, we said we'd open a new 90-day window. We have in March, we have public hearing scheduled at March 10th at Granite Elementary, March 19th at Park Lane Elementary for their school closures. We could have a second reading at our March 31st meeting, and then if you wanted a third reading of possible action at May 5th, again, these would go into effect for the, not next school year, but the 27-28 school year, August of 27. Then once you approve that, we would start with the transition teams, that we have had with Bella Vista, similar to what we were doing with Bella Vista and Ridgecrest right now. I'm just going to go through these slides really quick. These were back in our last presentation, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but here's just, again, where the boundaries are for Quail Hollow and Granite. They would go to the Quail Hollow building. That slice, though, on the south side of the gully would go to Lone Peak, because that does go into Indian Hills and into Alta from there. You can see the numbers. The EEC would stay there as it goes into Albion and Brighton right now. And then you can see that we do have 28 classrooms at Quail Hollow. We would need 23 of those, class size around 22. They would also need 3 for the ABS. We are looking, I know Terry is looking at preschool and where we could do that more. We know we're doing some more at Oakdale, and we'll probably look at other places as well as Silver Mesa, maybe even Peruvian Park and other areas. Here's our proposal B, again, Park Lane, going to Willow Canyon, starting in the 27-28 year at the Willow Canyon building. Again, if we did the build on site, they would have to consolidate there anyway in the 29 year. Again, we feel like, at least our view is, get these communities together, get them built up, and again, try to strengthen the best we can of going into Eastmont. We do know we lose about a quarter of the Park Lane students, 6th graders, going to Albion. We'd like to try to keep as many of those with the friends going into Eastmont, then down to Jordan. You can see the FCI scores with those. And again, just try to focus on that strong stability feeder system moving forward with that. So with that, again, these last 6 slides were done a couple meetings ago. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time, but wanted to leave them on there just as a refresher so people didn't have to go back and look at where our proposals were. So with that, board members, I'll turn it back to you, President Schill, and take any questions or comments you may have.
Okay, board, are there any questions or comments to this proposal and update?
I think we probably all do.
Oh, did Katie raise her hand? Okay, Mrs. Dolly, then Mrs. Nyber.
Thank you, Leon, for all your work on this and for our long-range planning team. It's been hours and hours of work as we've been going through this, and there's lots of stuff still going on behind the scenes that we're not ready to put out quite yet. But just know that we hear you. We are looking very closely at that Eastmont Jordan feeder and trying to balance these feeder systems for the long term. You know, as he looked at, some of our others are also dropping quite rapidly. And so we're looking at how to support those. And so know that we're there looking at those things and trying to also look at the number of times we're displacing a community with some of these rebuilds so that we're not moving communities multiple times to do that.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Nyber.
Okay, first off, thank you so much for all the work. We all were interested and we've expressed multiple times the need and request for a 5 or 7 year plan. So I love that we have something put together to look at. Could we please move back to the slide about how we'll fund these projects with where we talked about possible tax hearing right there. Perfect. Okay. Leon, you said that the initial investment would be about 2.5 million when you were presenting just a bit ago.
I think that was, to get Park Lane, some of the needs that need to be corrected at Park Lane right now would be about 2.5 million.
Would be about 2.5
So
million.
that's different than this, yeah.
Right. So my largest concern is I know the operating costs of keeping the elementary schools open, and I do know the age of our schools and that they need updates, but I'm concerned about the large investment to do all these building projects within the next 7 years. I'm concerned about our vehicle to do that with lease revenue bonds, just because I'm not certain it's always going to be how it has been. I'm concerned about the tax levy implications. And having said that, I know this is a very complicated situation, so I'm not trying to be overly critical about it, but I am very concerned about that. I would love to know, when we look at the remodels, I remember how much Glacier Hill was, and I'm just thinking about what would be the cost benefit analysis if we looked at keeping these schools open for a certain amount of time, and how much money that would cost versus the rebuild and combining it together. The thing is that I worry about is I really do worry about, I do believe that our strongest thing we have to offer for parents and families is that we are the center of the community and that we are a close proximity. And that is why our families choose us. And my concern is with what has happened in the past with legislation, right now we have such competing interests to draw away really great families to other educational options like charter schools and private schools, especially with the financial paybacks, and so to families. And so I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I'm very, very concerned about so much consolidation, because I think we lose our stronghold in our communities, and we need these families. We need these families to stay here and sit with us. We need personalized education. I think we need to look at how to be innovative. We had a mom speak just barely about educational tech and the controversy of the statistics provided of what happens there. We've had families come to us and ask, can we have a tech-free classroom where they just do tech like for brain boosters? And I mentioned in a previous board meeting how amazing would it be if we started a pilot program like at Granite Elementary and had some elementary classrooms where they only do tech at a brain booster or an assessment situation? I'm really interested in looking at some other things that we can do. And I'm concerned about so much rebuilding and so much cost associated with that. And I really want to hear from all the long range planning who've looked at this a lot, so. And Leon too.
Okay, Mr. Wilcox, you've already told us multiple times the cost of keeping a school open for 1 year. Can you just refresh our memories?
So, it's about $1 million, on overhead costs. Most of it's personnel with the principal, the vice principal, achievement coach, secretary, custodian. You're looking at about $1 million. And then all the aides and whatnot. Of course, the teachers would go to the new school off that. As far as rebuild and remodel, you can discuss that all you want. I agree. They are older, and where do you start drawing the line? Putting more money in and rebuilding. That's something that we've always talked about. We also know that these buildings do draw. Every elementary that we've opened has drawn kids back from wherever they were going. So all that focuses in and trying to really sustain that strong presence. I'm particularly talking about Park Lane, that East Sandy area, trying to get that strong presence, keep that strong presence up there. That's what, as the long range, what we've talked about. We want to emphasize on the tax, as we do this, we wanted to keep this neutral to the taxpayer. They would not see an increase in their taxes. Now, we'll probably have to do increases as we've done for operating costs, for salaries for our employees. As you know, we cannot bring in more money from 1 year to the next. But on the capital side, we wanted to keep that revenue neutral, cost neutral to the taxpayers moving forward. So we have gone through that plan. That's what this does here. We'd love to start building now, but we don't have that capacity. So that's why we have to wait till 2028, 2029 to do that. And we can only do one in 2028 because you can see it starts spiking up a tiny bit here under the way we have to do lease revenue bonds. If we did all four at that same time, that would spike up much more and cause a bigger impact. So all those, that's why we're in this little bit of a waiting period until we, again, looking at the long-term plan, but we know we can't put shovels in the ground right now because we just don't have the taxing ability to do that without an increase to the taxpayer. So that's the main reason there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. The other thing to keep in mind, just board and patrons that are here, is that we cannot mix. Capital is one fund, and then ongoing money that we pay salaries with is another fund, and we cannot mix those two. So just keep that in mind. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Mrs. Pedersen?
I appreciate your comments, Leon. You did a fine job of expressing some of the things that we've been discussing in long-term planning. Remember that it's a plan, it's not a guarantee. So that's the nice part, is at least we have some benchmarks set out for future schools, and no one says for sure they're going to happen on those dates. You just ask that we have a plan, that we know what we're heading for, and that is our attempt at this point. Can it be changed? Absolutely. But I'm pretty sure it can't happen exactly the way we have it, but if the world was perfect, we would love to be able to do that. Our buildings are aging out to the point where we can't get parts. So if we can't have a strategy to replace our schools so that they have another 50 years or more in them, then I think we can really provide a great education for our students. I don't want to have leaky roofs or bad air conditioning and safety issues because of the age of our buildings. And so we're just looking ahead and being a little, trying to be proactive. What could we do? This is what could we do, and this is the best version we can see without a crystal ball. So I'm pleased that we've been able to come up with this. In the past, the district has never looked any further than a year ahead, really. We haven't had a long-term plan because we haven't been around long enough to have had that need, but it's been wonderful that we've
been asked to and are able to create a plan that we can adjust. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I agree. But I'm thinking down the road, if we can have key buildings in our strategic areas of the district so that we have strong presence in all of our areas, I think that will be a far more efficient than having lots of little small schools. Jordan built as fast as the neighborhoods built.
Yeah.
And that's why they're in interesting locations and why they're so close is that they had a subdivision go up, so they built a school. A subdivision went up and they built a school. And so they're all in the same situation. And we inherited that when we had our split. So we're doing the best we can to be efficient. We don't want to raise taxes to do this. This plan is a possibility that we can do that without causing additional cost on our taxpayers that we can pay as we go. So I think we're trying to be very prudent in how we're using our money. As far as our proposal B, it hasn't been decided yet. That's just the proposal. So it can go either way, back and forth. It can be changed. It can be dropped altogether. We're not to that point yet where we've completely made that decision, I promise. So the hearings will be helpful. Having you here is helpful. Appreciate that. We do have a lot of things that we're working on, boundaries that will affect our high schools and middle schools. But until we have that truly set up the right way, we're going to have people coming in and trying to challenge all those parts. And we want to make sure we have them right so that we can say, this is the boundary plan. And we're not quite there yet. We're working on it. But it's a really complex problem that I'm more than happy to work on. So I appreciate, Leon, all the work that you've done for this. I think we're heading in a good direction. Have we decided anything completely? Not a bit. This is a proposal. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dolly, then Mr. Edo.
Just your point. So what Holly was saying, if you look at, there's extensive research on the lifespan of public school buildings, and it's about 40 to 60 years. And all of our schools in East Sandy, a lot of these ones that we're looking at were built in the 70s and early 80s. So we're hitting that 50-year mark. We're really at the lifespan of these buildings. Even as you go in and try to remodel, I don't know if any of you have done a house remodel, it sort of starts with one small thing, I'm going to change this, and then it snowballs because you find other issues that it rolls into things. And so by the time you put all that money into the remodel, we found that even with Eastmont, a lot of times we're better off rebuilding to provide a better school environment for the students to be able to start from scratch. Many of these buildings were built with this open classroom model. We've already had to put like awkward walls and things in to make it work for a period of time. But also remember, this is what the district was founded on. The reason this district split off of Jordan School District was because the mayors in the community were mad that the money was not going into maintaining our schools. And so this has been a priority of the board from the get-go and of the community with passing general obligation bonds is to provide great education environments for our students that can last for a long time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edo.
So I'm particularly excited about the proposal. A couple of my colleagues, though, have mentioned that they hope that this will help the schools last an additional 50 years. Sandy Elementary is 75 years old. And then looking at Ridgecrest is, I just had it up, 59 years old. So to say an additional 50 years, our buildings have lasted a really long time. And if you've been at Sandy Elementary, it's actually amazing how nice the school is given its age. 75 years is a really long time for a building to be in existence. And it was mentioned various issues, right? Heating. So for example, at Sandy Elementary, it's been a routine issue that I know that facilities has worked tirelessly to try to address, which is classrooms that get into the high 80s and into the low 90s, or I think mid 90s when a couple different days, twice a year, every single year. And to the point where you just have complete learning loss. at a Title I school for multiple days each year, you're probably looking at a solid 2 weeks of learning loss where it's most needed. And that's not to say anything about kids throwing up because it's so hot, right? Or we're completely ignoring the employees as well because it's a significant impact on them. So that in and of itself is exciting. But then the new schools that we have, in addition to being places where your basic needs are met, they are also so much better of environments for our students to learn. When you have natural light is so incredibly important for our students. Along with how the spaces are set up, we've come a long way in 50 to 75 years that we're looking at for some of these buildings. So I'm really excited for that with this, and we spent quite a long time, looking at this and addressing it. But I did want to speak to the feeder system for a second as well. That's been a huge priority of mine, has been the Jordan feeder system. I have kids in the Jordan feeder system. It matters a lot to me. I mean, I'm at the short walk to Jordan High School, and Jordan High School has been an absolute priority of mine since I got on the board, along with the schools that feed into it. So there are some other things that we're looking at to go into this as well. So the first items that were proposed tonight were to do some reboundaries. So we've got the Jordan Bluffs area that's expecting some significant buildings to go up in the area. And so we are looking at that right now so that we can capture those students and then funnel those into the Jordan feeder system, along with some potential changes over at Copperview, which I'd like to say that some potential changes at Copperview could also drastically improve the educational experience of really, I think, our most disadvantaged students that we have in our entire district. And to be able to get each one of those students into a brand new elementary building, no matter how we were to divide that, assuming we went down that path, I think would be transformational for their lives as well. And just the feeling that the students have, right, with, how they go to school. But refocusing back on Jordan Eastmont, there are some things that we're looking at that we weren't able to propose and that I'm not going to explicitly mention. So at my other job in the military, we call the process staffing, and I was told that that is not a term that we use. And so ChatGPT told me I'm supposed to say review process, which is where you bring it to various parties along the way, a concept, right, before you push it out. That's an important process that happens with anything and any kind of big decision. And so some other concepts we're looking at to strengthen the Jordan feeder system are currently in that review process. And so while I'd love to push that out right now, it's really important that it go through that. We don't want people to be caught off guard with things. We don't want to accidentally create a bigger mess, but do know that we are looking at that at the moment. And so we really do want to focus on strengthening the Jordan feeder system. That goes with Eastmont, right? It's essential that Eastmont remains strong. It's essential that Mount Jordan remains strong. And it's essential that Jordan remains strong. So I did want to mention that I do think that this plan goes into that fantastically. And then, of course, looking at the new schools in our areas for phase 2 that we have, a new school is fantastic. When we look at Glacier Hills or we look at some of our other new schools, the learning environment is just so significantly better. And I've had kids who went to school at one of our old buildings that's dark and doesn't have very many windows. And then I've had my kids go to school in buildings that have windows, modern spaces, and enough room, right? And I think that those are all incredibly important. And then I do just want to circle back to the Sandy Elementary Sandy Elementary's in my area. I spend a lot of time at Sandy, and so I am particularly excited about this plan. Sandy is an amazing school, but the building itself just has so many issues, and this would be absolutely incredible for all the students in the area. And I could spend a lot of time on the issues that the facility has. There's so many, but I'm absolutely thrilled with the entire phase 1 through 3 plan that we have. And it was mentioned, you know, how do we pay for it? And as we look at the falling debts, right? And so we then transfer that money into the new schools. I can't display it as eloquently as Mr. Wilcox will in a future slide. He's got his great slide, and there's another graph you'd showed us once that I thought was a little bit better, and I don't know. The whole thing's just a little bit complicated, but not that complicated. I mean, unless you think all of Utah's tax system is complicated, because you know it is. But I appreciate the work that Mr. Wilcox, his team, facilities, my colleagues on the Long Range Planning Committee have put into this, and I'm really excited as we work to strengthen our schools, reinvest in our students here, and of course work to ensure that we maintain and strengthen our Jordan feeder system.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Oakes.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the comments and the presentation. There's a lot of work and preparation that goes into this. I want to address the sense of frustration I'm getting from parents that there's this perception that there is a lack of transparency. And part of what I want to say is when I was in your seats as a parent, and I came here because I had questions or concerns, and I had similar frustrations, feeling like things weren't transparent. Now that I'm on the other end of this, I've come to understand part of why that existed. And it was not a function of anyone here trying to not be transparent. It is partially a function of the system that we are required to work within. Let me explain that a little bit. I don't know how many of you understand what the Open Meetings Act is. School boards, city councils, other governing bodies that are required to follow by the Open Meetings Act actually have pretty tight restrictions placed on us in order to follow within the law. Namely, anytime a majority of the board is together, it becomes a public meeting if we're discussing anything that could be remotely considered policy or a long-term decision. Now that is even inclusive of emails where there's 4 or more of us, or even texts. So I literally cannot have a conversation with more than 2 of these people without us immediately thinking, oh, we could be violating the Open Meetings Act. What that means is the only time we can ever come together as a group to discuss things is in front of you. And is when it's televised, and that's like twice a month, maybe, right? And so what that feels like is you must be hiding something. You must be hiding something. Actually, it's like, no, we're finally just getting together again, and we're finally hearing what you have to say to us again. And yes, we have smaller committees kind of working through and looking at data, but I can tell you from having served on some of those committees where there's a lot of things that you're looking at, sometimes you have a scheduled 2-hour meeting, like once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you barely scratch the surface. This is not a function of anyone wanting to keep anything quiet or hidden from anyone. I can promise you, like, when I get my, stipend every 2 weeks, for fulfilling this position, my husband laughs at me, and he's like, really? Like, you have a law degree, and this is what you're doing with it? I mean, it's the family joke, right? They are here because they earnestly want to serve the community. And they are not trying to pull a fast one on anybody. I can promise you that. If you don't believe me, run for office. You'll figure it out yourself, and you'll realize the joke's on you, actually. But the truth of the matter is, because the state legislature has put additional restrictions and requirements on what is required with school closures, that timeline that we are beholden to is extended and pulled out. Now that feels like torture when you want to know what's going to happen and you want that certainty of what's going to happen. Now, if we were to come to you and say, we figured this all behind the scenes and here's the plan and we really don't care what you have to say, I guarantee that we would have lots of like pitchforks and torches. But the truth is, if you track what we have been doing since we started this process last year, we have actually really been trying to listen to the community and have made adjustments along the way. That is why we restarted the 90 days and changed the configuration. We listened to you about what you had to say with regard to your special ed communities, with regard to feeder systems, and you'll notice that changes consistently are happening. That is because we are trying to be responsive to the public voice. Now, there is a basic principle with any sort of leadership and systems, and that is the larger the system you have, the longer it takes to be able to turn the ship, right? I personally, as a mother, I have engaged in every kind of schooling you can think of. I did homeschooling, I've done charter, private, and public. There's a reason I'm back at public, by the way. But I will say the smaller the system, the easier it is to turn the ship because it's a smaller one. It's like turning a schooner versus an oil rig, right? And so it takes time, in part because once you pull the string out of the ball of yarn, it impacts something else around the spider web, right? And so behind the scenes, we have to like address all of that stuff. Well, how does that impact this? And how does that impact this? And how does it impact this? We don't want to belabor the public with all of those questions. Trust me, you don't have time. And neither do I, for that matter. I mean, my hat's actually off to the Long Range Planning Committee because if you want to ask any of us what the biggest lift has been for anyone on this board this year, that has been it. It's not a position that anyone wants because they're putting in a lot of extra time and away from their families and their jobs. So I promise you, we are listening. Now, listening and agreeing are two different things. We may hear a lot from a school community and it may be some of the same repeated message, but it doesn't always mean that in the big picture of the whole ecosystem that that's going to work the best. Like what Mr. Wilcox said, none of us want to be in this position. We all wish, without any shadow of a doubt, that every kid that we lose to charters or to homeschooling or even like that the home prices were lower so that young families could move in. We wish we could change that, but we can't. And we are left with this responsibility from the state legislature where we have to be fiscally responsible and also that we can provide learning environments for kids that are healthy and robust. So with that said, I want you guys to understand there is no ill will or foul play here. I recognize that right now in government, there is a lot of fear, upset, and angst about what is happening, and I am right there with you. I've lost a lot of sleep watching what I've seen, some of what I've seen in the media. But I can assure you that I serve alongside people with great integrity who are really trying to do best by their communities. And we will continue to communicate with you as information comes forward. We will continue to adapt. And I promise you that we will try and make the best decision possible based off of data and the big picture. It might not totally align with what the world looks like in your corner of the district, but we have to make decisions for the big picture for everyone in order to make wise decisions that will help the district long term. To that point, I like what Mr. Edel said, I'm very excited about some of the proposals here. I'm not saying like I'm absolutely settled. I'm excited in learning more and understanding more. My understanding is that East Sandy has issues with not being seismically safe. And so that is something that we need to address, especially considering we've had some earthquakes just even in the last couple of months along the Wasatch Front.
We have to keep kids safe. And I recognize that a lot of these proposals don't appear as the most ideal or convenient thing. But I promise you, we are trying to do the best we can with the public trust that we have received and are responsible for. All of us took an oath to uphold the Utah Constitution and the Constitution of the United States, and to do our best based off of the information provided us. And we will continue to do that. We will continue to listen to you. And again, I apologize that it feels so long and drawn out. What is meant to make it more transparent sometimes actually makes it feel less transparent. And it's a strange irony. If you want to contrast that to the Utah State Legislature, be my guest, because a lot of times they go into closed door meetings, and as a caucus come out later, hours later, with a decision that nobody knows or has any idea what the conversation was. We do not have that luxury. We'll have a misdemeanor crime attached to our name if we were to ever do something like that. It's just not possible. So that's what I have to say. I want to thank the members of the committee and Mr. Wilcox for all of your work on this. I recognize that there's going to be more information that comes forward, and there's a lot to continue discussing.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Nybar.
All right, thank you. Hey, I first off want to be very clear. I am very grateful for the Long Range Planning Committee and all the hours you've spent. I do feel like as a board, it is our job to also ask questions, because this is a robust discussion and this is kind of a big direction we're headed to. So I'm asking questions, but I also very much admit that they have spent hours, and I'm grateful for the hours, and they're also very smart and very capable individuals. I really appreciate what you said, Katie, about the lifetime of a building. I thought that was so very relevant. My concern is in 2017, before I was on the school board, we had a general obligation bond passed for $283 million. And that is what the vehicle we used to fund the Glacier Hills project, which was about $24.4 million to build that, right? About,
If I can back up,
yeah,
because of prices spiked at that time.
yes,
We had to go issue additional bonds. We call them lease revenue bonds. That would actually be the kind of the, I'm gonna go back here. That would be the peach color here.
okay,
We had to issue those bonds to do the Peruvian and Glacier.
and Glacier.
Both.
Because what our original budget was less than the 24,
Yeah, and
right?
it was based on the costs of Hillcrest, Brighton, and Alta that caused that
Yes.
issue, so yeah.
Yeah, and building costs
Yeah, yeah,
rose,
they-
like, and the concern I have is this 7-year plan, and again, I'm grateful for the 7-year plan, and I know this is just a proposal, but this is why we're here to discuss and ask questions, is we are looking at 5 rebuilds within 7 years. Sandy Elementary being first, and Sandy looks like that is something, you know, obviously it's over 70 years old. We really need to do that. But if you go to the other ones, we have 4 other rebuilds because we're combining Ridgecrest and Bella Vista. We're combining Quail Hollow and Park Lane, if you look through that list. So my concern is if the building costs are about anywhere from 20 to 30 million per building, they won't be that big.
No, they're more than that.
They're
You
more
should-
now.
The
Okay.
costs, yeah, the costs are for a new elementary now are about 40 to 45 million.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's like doubled.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so for each of those buildings, we're looking at 40 to 50 million. And we're saying the vehicle we're going to use to do that is lease revenue bonds. I would rather look at the vehicle of a general obligation bond, so we give it to the people to be able to vote on. Number one, that's why I liked what happened with Glacier Hills, because it was part of that. I know you're saying because the building costs went up, we did have to do a lease revenue bond on top of that. This is dates before I was on the board. But I like the idea of a general obligation bond giving people the chance to vote on it. The other concern I have is, given the cost of each new building being what it is, and to keep a building running is $1 million. I know they're old buildings, but Sandy lasted 75 years. Some of our buildings that are 40 and 50, it seems to me that it would be a cost savings to keep them open for a while, for a time. And I'm not saying we cannot combine schools or close schools. Because, you know, reality is we may have to do that. But I just, again, I mean, right behind me is this tenet of fiscal accountability. And so I feel like I need to ask the questions, right? I got to ask the questions. And what part of this in what's happening with charter schools, you know, I'm up at the Capitol and they have so many lobbyists and they're always asking for more money and more legislation. My largest concern is there something we should be looking at? Is there some sort of innovation we should be doing in our elementary schools, piloting programs or doing something a little different besides closing and consolidating? Can we exhaust ourselves trying to keep open those community schools so that in this educational race that we're having in our state, we win? Because I firmly believe the reason why Utah is so different than all our other states and why our economy is so great is because here in our state, all ships rise because traditional public school has been the #1 choice for most parents. And so we're all in this situation together. I've lived in Ohio for 4 years. I lived in Tennessee for 6 years. And I have seen what happens when neighborhood schools close and when schools combine. And I'm concerned about losing population of our families. So anyone want to answer that?
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, board? Okay. I will just end by saying thank you again to the Long Range Planning Committee. I really do appreciate them. I know a lot of parents have been saying, like, we need a 5-year plan. Okay, they finally have brought this to us, and this is the first time really our board has seen this. This is the first time I've seen it on Friday. So it's not like something where we've been hiding from you guys. I just saw this on Friday, as well as the rest of the board members who are not on that committee. And I do appreciate that. Just my own comments. So with those 2 bonds, we focused on high schools and middle schools. And now we do need to focus on elementaries because they are all about the same age and they're all really old, other than the ones we've rebuilt. They're new, but we have a whole bunch of buildings that are really old. So we do need to focus on starting to rebuild our elementary schools. And I think this has been a good discussion. I do value all the opinions of my fellow board members, and I think they had some really good comments. And with that, we will just look forward to, I personally look forward to, this is a process and the public hearings are next. And like Mrs. Oak said, we do listen, and that's why we've been changing the proposals, and they can still continue to change. So we'll look forward to that. So we are now going to go on to our staff comments, and I will start with Superintendent Robbins.
Yeah, I'll just echo my appreciation to the long range planning and how much work they've put in. Also, just want to express my condolences to the Goebel family, and as mentioned, and echo that sentiment. She'll be sorely missed. A great administrator and friend to us all. I was thinking back, she actually beat cancer once, and what a triumph, that was for her and her family. And so I know this is a really difficult time for them. Also, just want to recognize our ESP employees. We had an awesome PD day. I thought it was excellent to see almost 2,000 of our ESP employees there, and just the spirit of the meeting and working together and really developing skills and building relationships and networks. I thought that was very impressive, and just appreciate all that they do. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilcox, Business Administrator Report.
Just want to echo that. Thank you, everyone who helped with our ESP PD Day. Great to see that many people there, whether they're hourly, brain boosters, office aides, bus drivers, custodians, maintenance workers, computer, IT workers. It's great to have everyone there, and thank you for everyone who organized that. Just want to give a quick shout out to those who worked on our Catalyst grant. We got, it came out about a week ago. The legislature allocated $65 million for that. We got 17 of that. So about a quarter of it came to us. So that's big for as we start with our renovating the CIC down in Draper. And just quick update on Jordan High. I know we've focused on that. Some of the improvements there on the consent agenda. We approved the new baseball field. So we're actually going to tear up all the grass, replant new grass. It's going to have an infield turf, new batting cages, and pitching bullpens. So that will be, again, 1.8. We'll be doing sprinkler adjustments as well, and we will have lighting there. So it's going to be the only school in the district with exterior lighting, so something that our other schools don't have. Also, if you haven't been inside to see the new restrooms, they are all complete. The vestibule, the office. We're making good headway on the auditorium. That will be heavy this summer. Same with the field house and the small theater, black box theater is what we call that. Those two going up together simultaneously should be open by the time school starts. So that will be a big improvement there once we get those complete here this upcoming summer. So just some updates on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we will have board comments, and we'll start at this end with Mrs. Nybar tonight.
First off, I want to thank actually Leon. He's remarkable for all he does and pretty amazing. I don't know many people who can off the cuff just spit out numbers like him, but he does a great job at making everything work and making ends meet, and is also in charge of our transportation and so many things and has his finger on all the projects. So I wanted to thank him for his incredible work. I also wanted to thank our long range planning committee. Thank you for all your hours and your time. I really appreciate that we had a 7-year plan proposed tonight and look forward to more discussion, and thank you for your time. I want to thank Susan Edwards, Charlie Evans, and Brooke Karn for their amazing work at the Capitol. They are absolute rock stars. They spend an inordinate amount of hours there talking to our legislators and helping us with public ed bills and informing and educating the legislators there. And they've been doing this work for a long, long time, and they're fantastic at it. And it's so much work. Finally, I just wanted to personally say how much I loved Janet. She was fantastic. She did this for every board member. As soon as you got on the board, she'd give you a personal invitation. She'd have you tour CTEC. She'd have you go to the high school you represented and go see the entrepreneurs that were lecturing to the kids. I very much believe it was her personal invitations and her relationships she built with all of us that helped us realize what a priority CTEC is and career and technical education for our kids. And I think it's a large part of why that became a focus with us for the Innovation Center. She was so genuine, kind, optimistic. As Rick said, she had fought cancer once and won, and just a lovely individual, and I'll miss her very much. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Alrighty. I'm going to start just this last week. I had the opportunity to visit East Midville Elementary's Living Traditions Night. They do it every year. They set up the school so you can travel the different halls and travel the world. This year they had booths about Oceania, like the countries like Tonga, Samoa, that kind of region, as well as the North Pole. We had some Swedish, some Finnish, some Greenlandish people and information there that was great. They do it every year. It's one of my favorite things. It was one of the first things I did when I joined on the board last year. This upcoming week, I have the opportunity to attend Hillcrest Phantom of the Opera play, and I encourage everyone who can to attend. It'll be February 19th, 20th, 21st, and 23rd at 7 p.m. I also want to express my appreciation for the Long Range Planning Committee's addition of construction info on Proposal B. I do believe, and I said this at, I believe it was the January 20th board meeting, that I do believe Park Lane is the appropriate school to consolidate at. And I really do appreciate the fact that actual information and just a more whole and comprehensive proposal seemed to be included this time. I don't think that a good proposal can be made without a full plan of what we're going to do with the plot of land. You know, so I really do appreciate that information being added so we can have a discussion on that. And I do want to mention
one of the first things I also did when I was brought on the board was I did go and tour CTEC. Janet Goebel did reach out to me literally within the first 2 days of me being on this board and asked me to tour the CTE facilities at Hillcrest and then go over to CTEC with her. And we did in January. It was wonderful. She was a wonderful person. She was a wonderful educator, and it was an excellent introduction to the CTE facilities in our district. So I want to say thank you to Janet for, as a student in our district who graduated from this district, I want to thank you for what you did for myself and my peers, and also just for the district as a whole, and for myself on the board. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edel.
I don't think you could have met Janet and not have fallen in love with what an amazing person that she was. So, like everyone else, as soon as I got on the board, she reached out to me to give me a tour of CTEC, the CTE programs that we have. One of my favorite moments was actually visiting our house construction site. So for those of you who aren't aware, the district has a construction program and students actually build a house. It's a real house that people eventually live in. The one I visited was sold, I believe, to someone who lives in the district, works in the district. Anyway, the passion that she had for our students and for their futures was phenomenal. And so my deepest sympathies to not only her family, but all that knew her and that touched her. She was an amazing individual, and she'll definitely be missed. I do want to thank Leon for comments about the improvements at Jordan. I'm really excited about what's happening at Jordan, and I know that it kind of seems like it's been a little slow with the improvements at Jordan, but if you stop to take a step back and think about the magnitude of the improvements that we've been making, they've been pretty significant, and you can only do so many things at the exact same time. It seems weird to mention bathrooms, but the new bathrooms are amazing. And I do remember the students coming here saying how horrible the bathrooms were and how they didn't even want to use the bathroom. They would just hold it the rest of the day so that they wouldn't have to go to the bathroom at school, which is really bad. Let's say that. But the colleagues, stepped forward and approved a package to improve a lot of the facilities at Jordan, make it more secure. And then the rest of the improvements are coming, and I'm really, really excited about what's going on there. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Oakes.
I want to reiterate the comments about Janet. She's going to be very sorely missed, and much of what will happen with the Innovation Center is in large part because of the work that she did. So her legacy will continue on for many years. I am wanting to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year. Today's the first day of the Lunar New Year, which is a really big deal in a lot of areas of the world, and it was so fun to hear that little kindergartner come and talk to us. I think he may be the youngest public commenter we've ever had. That was pretty awesome. I got to attend, speaking of Lunar New Year, a Lunar New Year celebration event at Corner Canyon that hosted multiple Chinese dual language immersion schools and performers. It was awesome. We had people from the Air National Guard there talking to students about language opportunities. They had their travel study programs. They had just so many different performers. It was awesome, and it was quite the tribute to that program. So it was fun to hear from the Lone Peak community tonight. I got to attend Concerto Night at Corner Canyon. That was amazing. So many talented students and so much work that goes into playing one piece. My daughter is a cellist, and she got to perform that night. And I can say from personal experience, she's been working on the same piece for over a year. And it's a ton of work, hundreds of hours of practice. So I got to attend or go up to the legislature and see much of what our legislative team is doing up there and participate in discussions. There's just so many bills that are thrown at us every year. I think on average we have over 200 education bills passed every year. So it is a full court press, lots of work. Sometimes the education bills that actually impact us the most aren't even labeled as education. You have to be really wise and savvy and realize it could end up in all sorts of different committees in different places. And so it's quite the circus. I appreciated being able to attend the Innovation Center meeting, and there's so many great things that are coming to the students at this district. I just can't wait for you guys to learn more about them, and also high quality learning. There are a lot of dedicated people who are really seeking to make sure that the experiences our kids have in the classroom every day are meaningful. And I'm excited for more discussion to take place in the daily classroom surrounding the Portrait of a Canyon Scholar, which represents all of the professional skills, and abilities, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, those things that are hard to quantify, but are extremely important in order to be able to make it in the current world, in the current job market. So anyway, there are wonderful things happening despite having major challenges in front of us as a board. I'm also very, very grateful for the collaboration that we share as a group, and the critical thinking that goes into some of these very difficult decisions.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dolly.
Thank you. I first want to thank Amy and the Diamond Ridge staff for just knocking it out of the park. I love that they were innovative in figuring out a way to change the schedule to meet the students' needs and meet them where they're at. They're doing incredible things in changing students' lives. I know a couple of those students personally, and it has been a 180-degree turn for them when they had the opportunity to attend Diamond Ridge and really have begun to thrive learning in that environment. So it's a great school of choice for your kids. If the traditional schedule and things are not working, check out Diamond Ridge. It's an awesome opportunity, and the staff there is incredible. So thank you for the work you're doing there. I want to just echo the sentiments on Janet. I'm not going to go into more because so much great things have been said, but she was amazing and such a loss for our district to no longer have her with us. I want to thank our amazing administrators that we have here in the district. Leon is like the miracle worker when it comes to money. There's, we have pressures from all different angles, as we sit through this legislative session and wondering how else they're going to kill us by 1,000 more cuts when it comes to money. And yet he still is figuring out ways to provide a great educational environment for our students and our teachers, and in managing all of those pressures that we face. Now, he may lose a lot of sleep over it, but we appreciate the work that he does for that. I want to thank the team that put on the ESP Day. Even our support professionals are spending the time to do continuing education and learning, and it was great to see the energy up at Brighton High School last Friday with that. Thank you to the CTE team and for the Job Shadow Day they put on for our high school students that were able to go visit industries all across the city and learn from the industry members about their work and their careers that they're doing, get the kids interested in opportunities there. And I want to thank Karen. She works tirelessly. I probably puts in the most hours than any of our board members. Every superintendent tour she's at, she spends a lot of time with our Utah School Board Association, our JLC. We have the opportunity to go on Fridays and to work with our legislators and give them feedback on bills, and she's a voting member there on JLC. So I just want to thank her for all her work she does there in supporting our district.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pedersen.
Thank you, Katie. I too want to just say, recognize a good friend, a leader. Janet was someone who is fiercely passionate about CTE and CTAC programs, and I truly admire her courage, fighting cancer not just once, but twice. And she went down fighting. She went down fighting, and not too long ago, she was saying, I'm going to beat this. So I just admired the kind of person that she was, and we will definitely miss her in our CSD family. You mentioned I go to a lot of the listening tours. I go to all of them, but I was able to go with the superintendent to our facilities department. So fun. This is the secret department. No one gets notices. Facilities are the hidden backbone of our district. They are the ones that are on 24-hour call, that if the water breaks, if a window's broken, if the air conditioning goes out, toilets flooding, they're it. They're the ones that have to do the icky, nitty-gritty maintenance of our buildings. And I just so appreciate everything they do. They take care of heating and cooling, electrical, like I said, just about everything. They are amazing. And we have added 6,000, I don't know how much. We've added quite a bit of more property to their workload, and yet we haven't hired any new ones. And that's really not fair to them. We're going to look to see what we can do, but the budget is just so tight. So we'll have to see, but they definitely earn our respect. And I'm hoping that our students, if they get a chance, or even the teachers, to thank their building facilities managers. They're kind of the servants for the building. Someone throws up and they call them and they immediately have to come and clean that up. So I just wanted to say how much I truly appreciate the dedication they have to what we do. And I know they don't always feel that appreciation, but let me share that with you. I just really, truly appreciate all that you do. We're going to watch out for you, guys. Do what we can do. I also had the opportunity to go to the Canyon Symphony Orchestra last week. And if you close your eyes and were just listening, I would swear I was in a professional performance. I didn't hear any errors, any mistakes, and they made it was such a fun program because they highlighted different parts of the orchestra in unique ways. They had the brass players all behind us, and then they had some percussion over on the side, and then they had, people in the middle. It wasn't just sit and listen. It was amazing. 90 of our best orchestra students throughout the district, all 5 schools were there, and all 5 orchestra directors were there conducting, and it was just a marvelous experience. I just truly, truly enjoyed that opportunity. I'm looking forward to going to the play. It's the beginning of the play season with our high schools, so I've got tickets. I'll be over at Hillcrest to see Phantom of the Opera. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just want to end with that, and I hate to do this at the end, but I'm just a little disappointed that my community doesn't feel supported by me, and I would appreciate if they have questions or concerns. They are welcome to email me, and we can have a personal conversation. I don't think I've spoken with most of you. So if you want to ask me questions about what I believe and what we're doing, I'm more than happy to have you contact me. But having people just spread talk about you makes it very difficult for me to tell you what I really am doing, because they're not with me all day long and they don't know truly what I'm up to. So if you have questions, I am here to represent you, and I need to know what you're thinking, and so let me know. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I also want to just mention I went to the ESP day, and I had another meeting, so I was just going to come for a little bit, but then the keynote was so good that I couldn't leave. I had to stay the whole time. Anyway, it was so good, and it was just great to see so many people there and friendly faces, and we really do appreciate all they do. They are the backbone of the district and don't always get the credit, so I appreciate them. I also attended, there was a CTE job shadow lunch, and Karen and Katie were both there, and that was just really fun. Like, students from all of our high schools had gone to different companies. Someone went to the court, someone went up to the legislature, and they seemed like they had a really great time there, so I do appreciate that. And I just also want to say something about Janet. I got to go on a tour of CTE 2 years ago, so I guess I've been on the board so long, she had to do it again. And she took me and Nancy, and we went to every single school and also to CTEC. And she was just so proud of each program. And really, I do think because of her, we bought eBay. I'm going to say that because she took us around and showed us all these really great things that were happening. We could kind of see the vision and what could be also to expand it. So I do want to give her some credit for that, for our Innovation Center. And our thoughts are with her and her family. And I will now declare this meeting over. Thank you.